The Throne of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1101, Strong Men Gather. The outer orbit of the Demon Star. The King Space Carrier. The legendary Mecha Master Wong Xiangxing sat in the high captain's seat, his dark eyes under his silver hair staring coldly at the big screen in front of him. Below, the three legendary Mecha Masters, Mad God, Phoenix, and Evil Dragon, and the crew were all looking up at the big screen, all with heavy faces. The big screen showed the scene of the Demon Star. Due to the storm, the signal was affected, and the picture on the screen was not clear, covered with snowflakes, distorted from time to time, and even black. It can be vaguely seen on the screen that a group of winged demons are frantically attacking the gathering place of humans, and Solomon is fighting hard with the remaining more than 400 young Mecha Masters. With the large amount of nuclear fuel rods provided by Xia Xingchen, the people in the gathering place no longer have to worry about the problem of insufficient energy, allowing the Mecha Masters to exert their strongest combat power. However, just like the bad weather of the Demon Star and the crazy attack of the winged demons who are not afraid of death, the battle situation is not optimistic. Mechas were constantly destroyed by the two winged demons and fell from the sky. The ground was littered with burning mecha wreckage and broken limbs of two winged demons. 3 hours after the battle began, as many as 100 trial participants had died and slept forever on the Demon Star. Captain Phoenix couldn't bear to see the tragic scene on the Demon Star, so he stood up suddenly and shouted, "This is no longer a trial, but a massacre. These young people are sending themselves to die. They are sacrificing in vain and wasting their lives. We should immediately let the king land on the Demon Star and end this stupid war." Captain, I don't think the master wants to see this tragic scene. The master just wants to accept a few apprentices. There is no need to make it like this, right? The Mad God also stood up and said loudly. Among the three servants of the Star Pirate King Roger, only the Evil Dragon remained silent. Wong Xiangxing raised his lips, smiling like a spring breeze. His eyes swept over the three people, but his voice was as cold as ice. Phoenix, Mad God, do you two know your identities? When will it be your turn to talk nonsense to me? Captain, Phoenix and Mad God were speechless. The two were just Roger's servants. But Wong Xiangxing was Roger's sworn brother, and he was also the deputy captain of the King Star Pirates. Evil Dragon, take them away and let them calm down. Wong Xiangxing said coldly, my patience is limited. I don't want something like this to happen again. As you command. Zilong bowed, took Phoenix and Mad God away, and returned to his cabin. He said he wanted them to calm down, but in fact he put them under house arrest. Damn it. What does Wong Xiangxing want to do? I can't figure him out at all. Phoenix was put in solitary confinement and complained to the Mad God next door through his mental power. In my opinion, he is just sending those young people to their deaths. He was not like this before. He used to be a very gentle man. I don't understand either. Mad God shook his head and said seriously, maybe he is also doing it for the master. Master? You mean he has a way to rescue the master? Phoenix was shocked. Impossible. The master is the strongest man. He can't even escape from that damn place. What can Wong Xiangxing do? Alas. The master is a Star Pirate King who has advocated and pursued freedom all his life. Unexpectedly, he lost his freedom. What a irony. Mad God sighed. The three of us are weak and shallow, and we can't save the master. Maybe Wong Xiangxing really has a way. Mad God, look. Phoenix stood by the porthole, looking at the huge demon star outside the window in the endless universe. Suddenly, she saw a dozen small light spots gathering towards the King's spacecraft carrier. Her face suddenly changed, and she cried out, "It's a spaceship." The pupils of the Mad God suddenly shrank to the size of a needle tip. He saw clearly that these small light spots that gathered were all small spaceships, and these spaceships have a common feature. There is a grinning skull logo on the shell, and the skull wears a golden crown on its head. The King's skull. The logo of the King's Star Pirates. Star Pirate King Roger was trapped on the gold and silver star due to an accident. Afterwards, the Star Pirates, the number one star pirate group in the Milky Way, fell apart because they lost their backbone. Although the King's spacecraft carrier is still there, the crew on it are almost all newly recruited. The old subordinates who followed Roger to conquer the world are scattered all over the Milky Way. These star pirates are all notorious. In terms of fame and strength, they are not inferior to thousands of stars. At this moment, they are all back. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The spaceship received the guidance signal from the king and docked on the deck of the aircraft carrier. Wan Kai-Xing, his cape fluttering behind him, went to the deck to greet them in person. Ha ha ha, Captain Wan, I haven't seen you for many years, and you are still so handsome. A one-legged pirate with a monkey squatting on his shoulder walked down from the spaceship and laughed. Legendary Mecha Master, one-legged wit, the third mate of the King Star Pirates. Old buddy. Wan Kai-Xing walked up and hugged the one-legged pirate with a sour smell and unshaven beard. Captain Wan. A one-eyed pirate walked down from another spaceship and waved at the two. Legendary Mecha Master, one-eyed dragons in Mu. The heavy gunner of the King Star Pirates. Legendary Mecha Masters walked down from their respective spaceships one by one. The Star Pirates who had not seen each other for a long time hugged each other and patted each other's shoulders. Brothers. You are here. My plan this time will definitely succeed. Wan Kai-Xing glanced at his former comrades in arms. Everyone was old, but their strength was stronger than before. The King Star Pirates are an outlier among the Star Pirates in the Chaos Star domain. For other Star Pirate groups, even the 7 Star Pirate Overlords, the strength of the leader is only at the peak of S level. However, the members of the King Star Pirates are all legendary. Even if they were not legendary Mecha Masters before, after decades of training, they have become legendary Mecha Masters at this moment. Due to their identity as Star Pirates, except for Roger and Wan Kai-Xing, the rest of them did not appear on the ever-changing list of legendary Mecha Masters. This does not mean that their strength is worse than other legendary Mecha Masters. On the contrary, they followed Roger to traverse the Star Sea, experienced hundreds of battles, and their actual combat capabilities are extremely terrifying. Some of them, even Wan Kai-Xing is not 100% sure to defeat them. It has to be said that it is a rare event for such a group of extremely powerful legendary Mecha Masters to gather together. If they are willing, they can even subvert the entire Chaos Star domain and change the pattern of the Galactic Empire. Captain Wan, is what you said true? Can we really save the boss? Asked the one-eyed dragons in Mu. Yes, I have arranged everything. But, it's very dangerous. You have to be mentally prepared. Wan Kai-Xing said. Danger. Brothers have been roaming the Starry Sea for 50 years, and we have seen all kinds of dangers. As long as we can save the boss, it's worth it to sacrifice lives. Dujio laughed. That's right. We came here this time, not planning to go back alive. Anyway, in this life, we have been to all places, eaten all kinds of food, played with all kinds of women, driven all kinds of mechas, and killed all kinds of big shots. It's enough. The other legendary Mecha Masters also laughed loudly, full of the carefreeness of seeing through the world. Okay, all of you come to the conference room with me. I'll tell you the detailed battle plan. The enemy we face this time is unprecedentedly terrifying. Wan Kai-Xing said. Chapter 1102 Perfect Creature. Under the Demon Star, there is a lava sea. This is a huge space, with boiling magma flowing on the ground. The temperature is extremely high, and white smoke floats in the air. Waves of miserable cries and curses came from a small island in the middle of the lava sea. In the center of the island, there were young men and women, like dumplings, entangled in white silk threads, twisting left and right, like huge insect pupae. There were countless basin-sized, spider-like insects around them, spitting silk threads from their mouths, wrapping their bodies layer by layer, tightly from head to toe. For insects, humans have the most primitive fear in their hearts. The girls fainted on the spot when they saw such a big insect. The man was also frightened and panicked when he saw this numbing scene, with fear in his eyes. Haha, human. When you are wrapped in these silk threads, your bodies will melt into liquid in the cocoons and become the most delicious food for our god. Be grateful. Several human youths, with octopus-like insects crawling behind their heads, half of their heads were wrapped, and their bodies were also covered with a layer of brown keratin. They stood aside and laughed strangely. Brother. Binglan's whole body was wrapped in white silk threads, leaving only her mouth and eyes. She shouted at a human youth with a crying voice. Saber turned his head and looked at Binglan coldly. A strange smile appeared on the corners of his mouth, but his body was unmoved. Binglan's heart sank. She already knew that this man was no longer her brother, but an empty shell controlled by insects. Binglan regretted it very much. If she hadn't believed Saber's words, she wouldn't have let so many people fall into such a desperate situation. Unfortunately, there is no regret medicine in the world. Xia Xingchen. In despair, for some reason, a tall figure of man emerged in Binglan's mind. High Priest. Saber drove a mecha covered with insect shells, walked over with several controlled human youths, and knelt in front of an old alien demon wearing a cloth robe. Yes. The High Priest nodded slightly. There were holes all over his body, and insects were going in and out, but his expression was extremely enjoyable. It's Xia Xingchen. He killed Black Claw. He is already heading towards the lava sea. Saber said in a deep voice, we are not his opponents. What threat is there for a mere human? The High Priest sneered, if you all come together, can't you kill him? We. Saber and others hesitated for a while. In terms of strength, they are about the same as Black Claw. Black Claw was easily killed by Xia Xingchen, and so were they, living as the instinct of any creature. They, the Zerg, are no exception. Crack, crack, crack. Suddenly, a crisp sound came from the huge mountain behind the High Priest. This huge mountain is all black, hundreds of meters high, and it turned out to be the insect egg from before. At this moment, the skin of the insect egg was completely invisible. A crack opened, and a dark entrance appeared. A pool of green mucus came out from it. A naked person, covered with sticky liquid, walked out of the crack. Hanglian. This human was Hanglian. Hanglian was taller than before, with 6 abdominal muscles clearly visible, and his body proportions were almost perfect. There seemed to be a layer of shiny shell on his body, making him look very dazzling. Plop. Hanglian walked out of the mountain insect egg, and jumped directly into the magma sea next to it. The temperature of magma is over 1000 degrees, and even steel will melt into molten iron. However, Hanglian actually bathed in the magma to wash his body. A few minutes later, Hanglian finished washing, and with red magma flowing on his body, he jumped ashore. The magma solidified quickly, forming a layer of black and red lava armor on Hanglian's body, which looked very handsome. Hanglian, you are now a perfect creature. Go and get rid of the enemy. A huge voice came from the mountain insect eggs, shaking the entire underground cave. Yes, my god. Hanglian knelt on the ground and said respectfully without any hesitation, go. As soon as the voice fell, the mountain insect eggs trembled a few times and there was no movement. At this time, the High Priest, Saber and others under the insect eggs, breathed a sigh of relief. Even though they were all servants of the insect god, they felt terrified every time they faced the insect god. This was fear at the soul level, which was completely uncontrollable. The insect god is the most perfect creature. He becomes a celestial being with his flesh. He is our true god. The High Priest prostrated himself in front of the mountain insect eggs, his face full of awe. We, the god's favored ones, exist for the birth of the insect god. Only celestial beings can be called gods. Energy celestial beings, spiritual celestial beings, and mechanical beings. These celestial beings have abandoned their original bodies. Only the insect god, with an immortal flesh, is the most powerful celestial being. When the insect god hatches from the egg and evolves into a complete body, he can destroy the entire galaxy with his own strength. The insect race is the most perfect existence. The most powerful predator. Saber and several other human youths whispered. In the spore black fog, Hanglian drove the predator mecha, and the dragonfly wings behind him vibrated, flying forward rapidly. A layer of flames burned around the predator mecha. Wherever it went, all the spores were burned out, and the black fog dispersed, and a road appeared. Xia Xingchen. Defeated. You are no match for me at all, and you are here to die again. Hanglian's eyes turned into countless small grids at this moment, like the compound eyes of a dragonfly. firmly locking onto Xia Xingchen's existence in the depths of the black fog. Xia Xingchen was meditating on the Qinglang mecha, with cold sweat on his forehead, and entered the most critical stage. Die. Hanglian waved his hand, and countless white silk threads spurted out of the mouth of the predator mecha, covering the Qinglang mecha, and squeezing and wrapping it. However, Xia Xingchen was in a meditative state at the moment, and could not move. Cut. One Rui, who had been guarding beside Xia Xingchen, saw that things were not going well, and quickly jumped out, and the two-handed sword in the hand of the steel bone mecha chopped down fiercely. Swish. The white silk threads in the sky were cut off by the two-handed giant sword, and flew around like hair. Oh. One Rui. Hanglian's pupils shrank. I heard that you are a superpower who controls metal. You can control the deformation of the mecha. You really have some skills. However, even Xia Xingchen is not my opponent. You are even less so. Get out of the way quickly. I will spare your life. One Rui looked at Hanglian coldly. Are you a human now, or an alien? Human, alien. Hanglian laughed. I'm afraid I'll scare you if I say it. I'm the most perfect creature now. You can call me God. God. Just based on you dare to call yourself God. I really feel embarrassed for you. One Rui's steel skeleton mecha transformed again, and the two-handed giant sword turned into two long swords. He held them in both hands, and glared at Hanglian. Chapter 1103 Vulnerable. You dare to insult my Protoss. You are courting death. Hanglian's pupils suddenly shrank, and the predator mecha raised its right hand, and a brown stratum corneum quickly spread, turning into a worm nest spear full of holes. What was different from before was that this worm nest spear was also covered with a layer of black lava crust, and red magma flowed between the cracks, and white gas came out of the holes. Kill. The worm nest spear crossed the sky, and stabbed at the steel skeleton mech. Ding. The steel skeleton mech held two long swords, and blocked the worm nest spear, making a metallic explosion. Nothing more. One Rui blocked the attack, and found that Hanglian's attack was not as fierce as he imagined, and was about to make a sarcastic remark. At this moment, a smile appeared on the corner of Hanglian's mouth, and he shouted in a low voice, "Explode." Bang. The worm nest spear exploded, and the magma inside flowed out and splashed on the steel skeleton mech, instantly melting the metal, and forming large holes. One Rui was horrified, and quickly controlled the steel bone mecha to retreat, and used his supernatural power to control the metal to reshape. However, Hanglian was relentless. The dragonfly wings behind him shook, and his body was behind the steel bone mecha. Swish. The right arm of the predator mecha turned into a huge red sickle of a praying mantis, and a sharp light flashed, and the steel bone mecha was cut in half. Unable to withstand a single blow, Hanglian's eyes were full of coldness. He crushed the cockpit of the steel bone mecha with one foot, and placed the sickle blade on One Rui's neck. Too strong. Obviously we are the same age, and obviously both S-level mecha masters. Obviously I'm also a genius. I'm not Hanglian's opponent at all. One Rui's face was as hen, and he closed his eyes, and waited for death. I'll give you a quick reward. The skimming mecha waved the huge sickle, and Hanglian's face showed no mercy, and fell fiercely on One Rui's head. Buzz. A ray of starlight suddenly fell, blocking the sickle, and immediately blocked the sharp attack of the sickle. Starry sky barrier. Brother. One Rui was delighted and looked in the direction of Xia Xingchen. He saw that Xia Xingchen had woken up from his meditation on the Azure Dragon mech, with a smile on his face. Brother, thank you very much. If it weren't for you helping me delay time, it would have been dangerous just now. One Rui felt a strong mental power fluctuation coming from Xia Xingchen, whose strength was far above his own. Obviously, after Xia Xingchen swallowed 8 mind power crystals, his mental power level soared continuously, from level 45 to level 47. If it was an ordinary mech master, the impact of increasing the mental power level by 1 or 2 levels would not be too great on the combat effectiveness, because their original mental power level was enough to bring out the full performance of their mech. The improvement of mental power was just icing on the cake. However, Xia Xingchen was different. Xia Xingchen realized at this moment that, because his mental power level was too low, he had never brought out the full performance of the Azure Dragon mech. The Azure Dragon Mech was one of the 4 great beasts of the orcs, and its performance was extremely powerful. With the spiritual power increased by 2 levels, the combat power of the Azure Dragon Mech at this moment is like heaven and earth compared to before. Xia Xingchen, you come to ruin my good thing again. Han Lian grinned. You defeated General. I will let you taste the taste of failure again. Kill, kill, kill. The Predator Mech moved and instantly arrived behind the Azure Dragon Mech, holding the huge sickle in both hands and sweeping across, trying to cut the Azure Dragon Mech directly into 2 pieces. Whoosh! Xia Xingchen's expression was calm and indifferent. The Azure Dragon Mech used traveling in the sky without any warning, and instantly moved horizontally to the side, with an amazing speed, becoming an elusive phantom. At the same time, the magic weapon system has been activated, and the black drill in his hand quickly condensed, spinning wildly, and stabbed towards the cockpit of the Predator Mech. Han Lian did not expect that Xia Xingchen's speed would be so fast. Boom. The cuticle and lava armor outside the Predator Mech were pierced instantly, and were severely damaged. How is it possible? Why is Xia Xingchen so strong all of a sudden? Even I'm no match for him. Han Lian's face turned pale, and he quickly retreated, while controlling the Predator Mech. I can't die in Xia Xingchen's hands. Escape. Escape to the insect god. A guy like Xia Xingchen, the insect god can turn him into dust with just a flick of his finger. Han Lian was terrified, and didn't dare to fight again. The wings behind the Predator Mech vibrated wildly, and it instantly escaped to the depths of the spore black fog. Xia Xingchen didn't chase him, but turned around to rescue one RUI from the wreckage of the Mech, and put him into his cockpit. It's a pity that he escaped. One RUI looked angry. My steel bone Mech turned out to be written off like this. The old doesn't go, the new doesn't come. Xia Xingchen smiled, waved his hand, and put the wreckage of the steel bone Mech into his own portable space. Look forward to it. I will design a stronger Mech for you. Okay, thank you, big brother. One RUI looked up at Xia Xingchen, and found that his temperament had changed slightly, like the boundless and vast starry sky. Unfathomable. Han Lian fled in a panic, and returned to the small island in the center of the lava sea. Han Lian is back. Han Lian, is Xia Xingchen dead? The insect god personally modified the mecha for Han Lian. He must have won. The high priest, Saber and others said one by one, when they saw Han Lian return safely. A mecha was destroyed, but Xia Xingchen is still alive. Han Lian's face flushed slightly. There are 2 of them, and 1 of me. 1 against 2, I'm no match. Being able to destroy the mecha of one of them is already a strong record. Xia Xingchen is so powerful, even you are not his opponent. The others took a breath of cold air. Han Lian said, I don't know what technology Xia Xingchen's mecha was made of. It's not even as powerful as the Predator mecha the insect god gave me. And his killer weapon, Thunder Roar, is 10 times more powerful than a shipborne plasma cannon. One strike can kill 10 winged demons. And the black spiral spear in his hand is even more indestructible. And I feel that his mental power is also improving very quickly, and he will soon become an S-class mecha master. S-class mecha master. Isn't he an A-class mecha master? It's only been a few days, and he can be promoted from an A-class mecha master to an S-class. It's too evil. Everyone present was shocked. No way. My god, please give me more powerful power. To defeat the invaders, Han Lian knelt in front of the mountain insect egg and whispered, more powerful power. The mountain insect egg shook, and a black tentacle suddenly stretched out from the ground, wrapped around Han Lian's feet, and dragged him into the insect egg. On the other side, Xia Xingchen drove the King Lang mecha through the spore black fog, and quickly moved towards the depths of the ground. After 2 levels of mental power improvement, Xia Xingchen's spiritual awareness was able to cover a distance of thousands of meters in the black fog, and the black fog was like nothing. Chapter 1104, Fighting into the Lava Sea. In the spore black fog, the wings of the sky behind the Azure Dragon Mech flapped quickly. Every time it flapped, the Mech flew forward hundreds of meters. Under Xia Xingchen's divine sense, the spore black fog could no longer block his sight. Everything within 1,000 meters was clearly visible, as if it were daytime. However, the underground cave was deep, and connected in all directions. Xia Xingchen was afraid of taking the wrong path, so he did not move forward at the highest speed, and moved forward cautiously at a low speed. Under the cover of the spore black fog, some winged demons lurked in some hidden corners, ready to attack Xia Xingchen. They had no idea that their self-proclaimed hiding place had already fallen into Xia Xingchen's eyes. Xia Xingchen pretended to be unaware and walked past the winged demon. Human. Die. A winged demon holding a huge stone spear flew out with a ferocious face and shouted loudly, dancing the stone spear in his hand with great vigor and slashing it down on the head of the azure dragon mech. Bang! The azure dragon mech dodged the attack of the double-winged demon with a light touch. The enhanced paint was turned on and the right hand flashed with golden light. It punched a bloody hole in the chest of the double-winged demon with one punch and took out a still squirming crystal insect pupa from the position of the heart. This double-winged demon has indeed been parasitized by the crystal insect. Most of its vitality has been absorbed, and its strength is not as good as before. However, it just happened to be a bargain for me. Xia Xingchen was delighted. The 8 telekinetic crystals made his mental power leap forward, and he was upgraded by 2 levels in a row, greatly increasing his strength. It can be seen how precious telekinetic crystals are. They are priceless treasures, and naturally the more the better. Xia Xingchen carefully put the crystal insect pupa into the portable space and drove the azure dragon mech to continue moving forward. Along the way, Xia Xingchen encountered continuous attacks and killed 11 double-winged demons in a row and got 11 crystal insect pupae. However, these crystal insect pupae were large and small. The small ones were dull in color and withered in skin. Xia Xingchen used his spiritual sense to explore and found that there was no vitality in the insect pupae. Brother, these crystallized insect pupae were not fully mature yet, and you killed them to get their eggs, so they died in the womb. One RUI took a rest, his face looked a little better, and he spoke. In the battle with Hanglian, one RUI steel bone mecha was destroyed, but he was not injured. After a rest, he recovered. Among the 11 crystallized insect pupae, only 5 telekinetic crystals can be taken out. Xia Xingchen felt a little sorry for this result, but he was helpless. Regardless of whether the crystallized insect pupae are mature or not, those winged demons have already killed them in front of him, and they must be killed. The front suddenly became clear, and the King Lang mecha came out of the spore black fog in the underground cave, with hot winds on the face, and an endless sea of lava in front of him. Finally out, Xia Xingchen squinted his eyes and looked at the island in the middle of the lava sea from a distance. He felt that there was a smell on the island that made him extremely uncomfortable. It seems that there is an extremely powerful existence lurking on that island. On the island, hundreds of young human geniuses were wrapped in white silk threads, unable to move, and could only twist left and right like insect pupae. It hurts. It hurts so much. The mucus on the silk thread is highly corrosive. It corrodes holes in our mecha suits. Ah. It hurts so much. I feel my flesh melting. The humans screamed in pain, and some cursed in despair. Someone come to save us. I'm still young. I don't want to die yet. Even if I die, I don't want to be food for these bugs. This way of dying is too miserable. Some people burst into tears. Ha ha ha, don't even think about it. You are destined to be food for my god. Don't struggle. There is no use in struggling. No one will come to save you. Even if someone comes to save you beyond their ability. In the end, there is only one way to die. The alien demons and Saber and several controlled humans heard the cries of these people and made ruthless remarks. Indeed, this is the underground of the demon planet. There are countless alien demons guarding the way, and there is also a pitch black fog of spores. What's more, the insect god is still on the island. Want to rescue people from this place. Difficult. Too difficult. However, at this moment, boom boom boom, a series of deafening explosions came from above the lava sea. The explosions were not far away, within 100 kilometers of the island. What's going on? When the alien demons on the island heard the explosions, they all changed their faces and shouted loudly. It's a human. It's the human from before. Xia Xingchen. He single-handedly went into the lava sea. A 2-winged demon with scars all over his body and one bat wing on his back broken, fell to the island and reported the news. What? The alien demons all looked stunned. A human. He actually passed through the spore black fog and reached the lava sea. How is it possible? Kill him. Kill this human. Kill him at all costs. I feel danger. The insect eggs as big as mountains in the center of the island shook violently at this moment, as if they felt fear. A sharp and trembling voice rang in the mind of every alien demon. Kill the human. Protect our god. Kill kill kill. On the island, countless winged demons flapped their wings and flew up, their minds filled with murderous intent, and they flew madly towards the Qinglang mecha above the lava sea in the distance. Lava sea. Xia Xingchen was driving the Qinglang mecha, and was fighting a large group of winged demons above the lava sea. Even in the cockpit, Xia Xingchen could feel the heat, sweating profusely, and a large area of the back of the mecha combat suit was wet. The basic skeleton of the Azure Dragon mech is made of the Azure Dragon sacred wood. Although the Azure Dragon sacred wood is impervious to water and fire, it is made of wood after all. Fighting in this lavaland, it can't exert 100% of its combat power, Xia Xingchen thought to himself. But, it's enough to kill you two winged demons that are parasitized. Xia Xingchen shouted in a low voice, and the sky wings behind the Azure Dragon mech shook, and it immediately flew into the air. Boom boom boom. One after another, lava pillars emerged from below, and the endless hot lava descended instantly, trying to burn the Azure Dragon mech. At the top of each lava pillar, there was a two-winged demon standing on the lava, staring at it. It turned out that the two winged demons on the island actually sneaked into the lava and attacked Xia Xingchen from below. The bodies of alien demons are really terrifying. This magma is at least 1000 degrees, and they can actually hide in it with their bodies. Xia Xingchen was secretly surprised. If the two winged demons were not parasitized by crystal worms and their strength had not dropped to half of what it used to be, Xia Xingchen would not be a match for these two winged demons attacking in groups. The Demon Star is one of the 3 forbidden areas in the Chaos Star domain. Even if a legendary Mecha Master Ashley breaks in, he may perish here. The degree of danger can be seen. Kill. More than a dozen two-winged demons looked ferocious, holding various stone weapons in their hands, and rushed towards the Qinglang mecha. Although they were parasitized by crystal worms and their strength dropped, there was only pure killing intent in their minds. Their fighting methods were fearless, and like moths to a flame, they were extremely crazy. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1105, The Insect God's Assassin. Kill the human. The god of insects has ordered. Stop this human from approaching the island. A dozen alien demons stepped on the magma and besieged Xia Xingchen from different angles. Xia Xingchen used traveling in the sky and the Azure Dragon mech turned into a stream of green light and was able to handle the siege of the alien demons with ease. Roar. A two-winged demon holding a stone hammer attacked. Squeak. The sound of a drill that made people's teeth ache suddenly sounded. A green light flashed, and a huge bloody hole appeared on the chest of the two-winged demon. It fell into the magma with a wail and turned into ashes. At the first sight, the right drill of the Azure Dragon mech drilled through his body. Human. Die. A two-winged demon with old scars all over its body and experienced in hundreds of battles flew over and shouted loudly, but before it could make a move, its head was smashed by the Azure Dragon mech, and it was killed on the spot. Hundreds of alien demons were flying over the lava sea, unable to stop Xia Xingchen. In the center of the island, the high priest looked very ugly. Xia Xingchen, so scary. His mecha, the performance is too terrifying. No wonder he dares to challenge the entire galactic empire. Saber and others also looked very ugly. They all knew that, if they met Xia Xingchen alone, they would only have one way to die. At this moment, Xia Xingchen was driving the Qinglang mecha, like a death god reaping lives, constantly hunting down the two-winged demons over the scorching lava sea, and taking out crystal pupae from their bodies. Unfortunately, most of the crystal pupae were immature. A bunch of trash. The voice of the insect god sounded again in the minds of the alien demons, cursing, "You are not even a match for a small human. I have no choice but to give you stronger power. Wake up, my servants. Wake up, the god favored. Wake up, the armor of the god favored." Boom. The entire lava sea was boiling at this moment, and countless lava columns shot up into the sky. The bodies of these two winged demons were originally covered with a layer of dark brown insect shells, but only at the joints, occupying only 10% of the body surface. However, with the call of the insect god, the insect shells on these two winged demons spread rapidly on their bodies at a speed visible to the naked eye. These dark brown insect shells are covered with fine patterns and contain terrifying power. Ayo. The alien demons howled in pain, as if they were enduring uncontrollable pain. The bodies of alien demons are already strong enough. But, they are mammals after all. In nature, the most powerful creatures are undoubtedly insects. Generally speaking, the size of insects is too small. If the size of insects is large enough, it would be too terrifying. Now, these alien demons are transforming into insects. Xia Xingchen's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle tip. His spiritual sense swept over and could clearly feel that a strong breath came from these alien demons that were transforming. We can't let them complete their transformation. Xia Xingchen was not a fool. He made a prompt decision and shouted, "Thunder roar. Turn them all into dust." Boom. A thick column of thunder poured out from the mouth of the Qinglang Mecha, covering the alien demon that was transforming in the air. This column of thunder turned into a blue shadow of a thunder dragon in the air, and its power was extremely terrifying. The alien demon in the front had completely turned its body surface into an insect exoskeleton, but this powerful body still couldn't stop the high energy invasion of thunder roar. In an instant, the alien demons were all turned into ashes in the places, swept by thunder roar. Hundreds of alien demons died in an instant. I know this power. The thunder heart of the ancient humans. The ancient humans are really terrible ancient humans. On the island, the mountain insect eggs felt the powerful force of thunder roar, and their bodies couldn't help shaking violently. I didn't expect that some humans in the Milky Way really got the inheritance of the ancient humans. The insect god was terrified. It's a pity that I haven't evolved into a complete form yet. Otherwise, when I become a perfect celestial being, not to mention the mere thunder heart, even the ancient humans can't do anything to me. The insect god was extremely angry. My god. The enemy is too powerful. We can't bear it. God, please help and save our race. Facing the powerful energy of the roaring thunder, the alien demons finally remembered the taste of fear. Hanglian, it's your turn. The insect god was also extremely anxious and distressed at this moment. Of course, the insect god would not take the lives of alien demons seriously. However, every death of an alien demon means the death of a crystal insect. The insect god needs a large amount of mind crystals to evolve into a complete form. Xia Xingchen killed dozens of alien demons in an instant, and the insect god was naturally anxious. With the roar of the insect god, a large hole opened above the mountain insect eggs, and a figure emerged. It was Hanglian. He was naked, and his body was covered with green mucus. A frightening breath spread from his body to the surroundings. Swish. Hanglian suddenly opened his eyes, and the green light stared at Xia Xingchen. Hanglian did not drive the mecha, but floated in the air alone. The pores on his body kept shrinking, greedily breathing the ammonia in the air of the demon star, and it was transformed into a green mist that spread all around him. An alien demon was a little closer to Hanglian, and accidentally inhaled some green mist. He screamed, his whole body turned black, and he fell to the ground and died. This green mist is poisonous. With the physical strength of the alien demon, he was poisoned to death just by inhaling it. You can imagine how fierce the toxicity is. Hanglian has been transformed by the insect god several times, and his identity is completely different from that of a human. Go. Kill your enemies. The insect god ordered. When Hanglian opened his mouth, he spit out no human language, but the chirping of insects. Hanglian's brain has been destroyed, leaving only some instincts and simple wisdom. But Hanglian still remembers that Xia Xingchen is his enemy. Raw. Sharp jaws of an insect appeared in Hanglian's mouth, and transparent dragonfly wings appeared on its back. It let out a strange cry, and flew towards the Qinglang Mecha. Hanglian's human body was only 2 meters tall. Compared with the tall Qinglang Mecha, it was simply the difference between a giant and a child. However, Hanglian flew over and hit the abdomen of the Qinglang Mecha, instantly creating a huge dent. Xia Xingchen also temporarily lost his balance. The Qinglang Mecha flew backwards for hundreds of meters before it barely stabilized. Xia Xingchen's face changed. Hanglian. What kind of monster has he become now? Xia Xingchen was extremely shocked, looking at Hanglian, who was no longer human. Kill you. Hanglian stared at Xia Xingchen and rushed towards the Qinglang Mecha again. Chapter 1106. Different paths to the same destination. Hanglian had transparent wings on his back and a pair of eyes that bulged out of their sockets, 10 times their original size. Many small grids could be seen in his eyes, like the compound eyes of an insect. His Adam's apple kept shaking up and down, making a piercing scream, and a layer of green poisonous fog filled the 10 meters around him. The alien demons who survived in the air encountered the poisonous fog emitted by Hanglian, and their faces turned as hen, their bodies swayed, and they fell from the air. Before they fell into the boiling lava, they had already turned into a pool of blood. His eyes were fixed on Xia Xingchen on the Qinglang Mecha, and his pupils were filled with raging anger. Kill you. Kill you, a low-level creature. In Hanglian's mind, there was only Xia Xingchen, the destined enemy. The moment he saw Xia Xingchen, Hanglian could not control his actions, and his whole body was wrapped in a hard insect shell and rushed over. Once, again, and again, Hanglian was defeated by Xia Xingchen. Especially when Hanglian was transformed by the insect god and thought he had become a perfect creature far superior to humans. He was beaten by Xia Xingchen and fled in panic, almost losing his life. Hanglian had never felt such humiliation. The Zerg is the most perfectly evolved and the strongest in the universe. With only the flesh, without any technology, it can cross the starry sky. What are humans? Hanglian roared angrily, and the dark brown insect shell had spread all over his body, covering his face, leaving only a pair of eyes. Humans. Humble humans. Tiny humans. A declining race. Fleeing to a remote corner of the Milky Way, living a miserable life. You are the descendants of a group of losers. And in the future, you are doomed to fail. My ancestors once destroyed your civilization. And now, it's my turn. The powerful will of the insect god echoed throughout the underground space, and his words were full of the arrogance of the superior race and contempt for the weak humans. Humans, are they really a weak race? How hateful. Humans are too weak. This fragile body is not even as good as an insect. Without mechas, humans are nothing. They are inferior creatures. On the island, some human mecha masters were bewitched by the powerful will of the insect god, and their faces showed disappointment. They felt pain, shame, and endless regret for being human. Wrong. There is no distinction between high and low among lives. Even if there is a distinction between high and low, it is distinguished by the brilliance of civilization. The civilization of ancient humans is so brilliant and peace-loving. Countless alien races in the Milky Way have been blessed by ancient humans. To this day, countless alien races have an incomparable admiration for human civilization in their bones. On the other hand, the Zerg. Yes, the Zerg's body is very strong and can survive in the universe. One's own strength can destroy an entire planet. But what about the Zerg's civilization? There is no civilization. The Zerg only knows how to eat, eat everything. You are not even as good as the weakest civilization. Xia Xingchen's voice was deafening and rang in everyone's ears. Xia Xingchen. Yes, it's Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen is here to save us. Hey, Xia Xingchen is here, but he is also going to die. He is facing the Zerg god, a celestial being. Tiny humans cannot defeat celestial beings. Among the human mecha masters bound by spider silk, someone immediately recognized Xia Xingchen's voice. Some people's eyes were gleaming with hope, while most people were still very pessimistic. There was no way. The power of the insect god was really terrifying, not to mention that there was a whole alien demon race behind him. Xia Xingchen was just an A-level mecha master. The insect race is a low-level race. How shameless. Hanglian was bent in the air, like a spring compressed to the limit, and then stepped on the air with both feet. A visible ripple of air spread out, and then a piercing sonic boom sounded. Buzz buzz buzz. The whole space was filled with a huge sound, and it made people tremble uncontrollably when they heard it. Hanglian's hands had completely turned into a huge scarlet sickle at this moment, with a layer of stratum corneum that reflected light on the outside, cutting towards the chest of the Qinglang Mecha at an incredible speed, breaking the sound barrier with just the flesh. The detector of the Qinglang mecha showed that Han Lian was emitting radioactive energy, and nuclear energy was diffused in the flesh. As the red lotus flew through the sky, a series of explosions appeared in the air around it, and countless tiny mushroom clouds rose up, filled with the breath of death. This scene was extremely horrifying. Even One Rui was so frightened when he saw this scene that he shrank his neck and his face turned pale. The body can actually use nuclear energy. Xia Xingchen's eyes suddenly became as big as needles. The scene in front of him completely overturned his past cognition. The purpose of life is to evolve. Any life, any race, needs huge energy to evolve. Humans have mastered nuclear fusion and dominated the entire galaxy. Mastering nuclear fusion is the foundation of human evolution and the most critical step. Humans have technology to achieve evolution, and the Zerg have also mastered nuclear energy. However, they can control nuclear energy with their own bodies. Maybe all life, when they evolve to the end, will all end up in the same place. An idea appeared in Xia Xingchen's mind. It's just, Han Lian's speed is too fast. Xia Xingchen didn't have time to think about it. The opponent was like a dark brown lightning, leaving sharp and angular tortuous traces in the air, flying over at a tricky angle, and was already in front of him. If it was an ordinary mecha master, he would not be able to react at all, and would be cut into two pieces by the sickle in Han Lian's hand. The speed is too fast. The Zerg is known for its speed and agility. It's not an easy thing for ordinary people to kill a mosquito. Xia Xingchen's eyes were blank, and he turned on overclocking and enhanced painting continuously. He didn't dare to be careless and push the performance of the Qinglang mecha to the peak state. The Qinglang mecha exuded a dazzling light golden light and used the city breaking and blocking hammer to meet Han Lian. Bang! Between the intersection of the sickle and the fist peak, a flash of light that burned the retina burst out, and a violent explosion occurred, and a small mushroom cloud rose from between the two. Behind Han Lian, countless stalactites were hanging upside down above the sky. At this moment, they were affected by the shock wave and all shattered into dust. The fist of the Qinglang mecha was severely damaged, and the shell was completely shredded, revealing the broken circuit underneath with sparks flashing. The power of the Zerg is really terrifying. The control of energy is very clever. The energy burst out by the flesh alone exceeds the nuclear engine on the mecha. Terrible. Xia Xingchen's hairs all stood up. Compared with other celestial beings, the Zerg celestial beings are more terrifying. The purpose of other celestial beings is just to destroy mankind. But the Zerg destroys all living things. Eat everything they meet. The Zerg is a real predator, a destroyer. Chapter 1107 The Strongest Body. Bang! Han Lian was no better than Xia Xingchen. The scarlet sickles on his arms shattered under the huge impact, and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Aren't humans low-level creatures? Haven't humans completely fallen? Han Lian's mind had been completely controlled by the insect god. He was shocked. He didn't expect that there would be such a strong person among the humans, who had always been despised by it. Whoosh! Han Lian's body quickly retreated in the air, like a black light, staring at Xia Xingchen from a distance. It's because the human body is too weak. The insect god murmured. If that's the case, just abandon this weak skin completely. Swish! Han Lian inserted his hands into his abdomen and tore it hard, immediately pulling out a shocking big hole. Countless black beetles rushed out of his body like a tide. These black beetles were raised from Han Lian's body, using his body as a breeding ground. At this moment, his internal organs and flesh were completely hollowed out. They kept coming out, covering Han Lian's entire body, forming a black mountain of insects. The mountain of insects became larger and larger, and in the blink of an eye it became a 10-meter high tower. The black beetles then fell down one after another, like black snow falling on the red and hot lava. The black beetles peeled off, and Han Lian's new body was revealed. He was 10 meters tall, with an upright figure. He had no clothes on, and was covered with a layer of black glowing carapace. His abdominal muscles were clearly visible from his abdomen. By human standards, this tall body also met the most demanding aesthetic concepts. His red hair stood upright, like a burning flame, and he had a handsome face with a slightly green face. His eyes were as deep as a cold pond, and his eyes were full of arrogance that looked down on the starry sky. I underestimated you. Han Lian spoke, his voice like thunder. Human. I will definitely kill you. Eat up all your flesh and skin. Enslave your soul. The insect god swore. As proud as he was, he had already regarded Xia Xingchen as his opponent. Swish. A jet black light burst out from behind Han Lian, forming a pair of black wings covered with scales. Without flapping, they floated in the air, emitting energy, which was extremely terrifying. Even the space was slightly distorted and even collapsed. This is the complete form of Han Lian, the strongest body transformed by the insect god based on humans. Of course, the real horror is not this insect body, but the inner soul. Han Lian's soul had long been shattered by the powerful will of the insect god, and took over this body. The black wings shook slightly, and the tall insect body immediately swooped down, full of a strong sense of oppression. Around the insect man, small mushroom clouds emerged one after another, and just moving could bring violent energy that triggered a nuclear explosion. A punch came. Ordinary, without any techniques, but with unparalleled and irresistible pure power. The blood in Xia Xingchen's body was completely solidified at this time. He even heard the sound of death, and the yellow spring river rolled up endless waves in front of him. In the face of crushing power, any technique is vain. Fight. Xia Xingchen roared, and the thunder heart ran wildly. The magic weapon system condensed into a black drill in the right hand of the Qinglang Mecha, like a giant drill that broke the sky, and rushed up to the unmatched fist of the insect man. Human. Your power is too weak. With the help of technology, you want to gain real power. Ridiculous. Any race is truly powerful by itself, not relying on external forces. However, this is also helpless. Your human civilization is too weak. Compared with us insects, you are like a barbarian tribe living in a cave. The insect god sneered, his eyes full of contempt. The drill and the fist collided, bursting out a dazzling light. Endless violent energy wrapped around the body of the Qinglang Mecha, and the power of the insect man could simply shatter the planet. Boom. The Azure Dragon Mech flew backwards. The devouring star armor on its body was shattered and scarred, revealing the Azure Dragon Godwood skeleton underneath. In the cockpit, Xia Xingchen vomited blood. The strong shock just now had severely damaged his internal organs. The insect man's figure was also a little embarrassed, and the black shell on his body was damaged. The insect god didn't care. With a change of mind, all these scars healed directly. The devouring star armor was also healing rapidly with the energy support of the thunder heart. But the speed was much slower than that of the insect man. The tall insect man stood in midair, looking down at Xia Xingchen, and said contemptuously, "It's really a lowly race, and you don't know the skills of energy operation. Even if you get the thunder heart, you don't know the mystery of using it. It's like a monkey sitting in front of a computer, typing randomly. You think you are smart, but it's actually ridiculous." The insect god has estimated Xia Xingchen's strength. With this insect man's body, there is no doubt that he can easily kill him. The difference in strength is too big. Come, let me teach you what energy control is. What is powerful? The insect god smiled slightly. Boom. The insect man pointed at the Azure Dragon Mech, and violent energy gushed out of his fingertips, turning into a long black whip and whipping it. Xia Xingchen used traveling in the sky, and the Azure Dragon Mech flashed and dodged the attack, and the armor on its body continued to repair. In the cockpit, Xia Xingchen wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand, frowning tightly. What the insect god said was right. He knew nothing about energy control. One RUI once mentioned that a truly powerful mech master is not just a mech pilot. By driving a mech to fight, they can understand how to use energy. Xia Xingchen sighed in his heart. If he had worshipped a famous teacher earlier, maybe he would know some energy control methods, and would not be as passive as he is now. That's right. I don't understand what energy control is. In this case, I will no longer control it, and I will crush you with pure energy. Xia Xingchen raised his head suddenly and shouted loudly. The heart of thunder was running wildly, and the violent thunder energy filled the whole body of the Qinglang Mecha. The mecha was covered with blue arcs of electricity, and rushed towards the insect man. Fighting hand to hand with Zerg, competing in speed and strength, is looking for death. The insect god sneered, punched quickly, and there were continuous explosions. The insect man's body was very strong, but the insect god was shocked. The fierce attack of the Qinglang Mecha actually damaged its arm. The King Long Mecha and the insect man kept fighting in the air, and both of them were boiling with fighting spirit. I finally found your weakness. Xia Xingchen was in the fierce battle. Although he was scarred, and the damage of the King Long Mecha exceeded 60%, the red light in the cockpit flashed, and the alarm sounded continuously, but the corners of his mouth slowly raised, and a smile emerged. He found a glimmer of life. Chapter 1108 Crazy Crush. Boom. The Azure Dragon Mecha was blown away again, and landed on the island in the center of the lava sea, standing firmly on its feet. Want to attack my body? You can try. The insect god laughed loudly, his voice extremely contemptuous. Hundreds of alien demons surged out like a tide, protecting the mountain insect eggs, staring at Xia Xingchen covetously. Attack your body? I'm not that stupid. Xia Xingchen chuckled. The Zerg is not like other races. Even in the state of insect eggs, its defensibility is amazing. After all, it is the strongest race in the universe. Then how can you beat me? The insect man folded his hands and laughed in the air. Nothing. I will use my strength to completely crush you. Xia Xingchen shook his head, and the Azure Dragon Mecha stretched out his right hand and hooked his fingers at the insect man, obviously provoking him. Human. You will pay the price for your ignorance and arrogance. The insect man sneered and swooped down immediately. Various energies around his body exploded and bloomed into brilliant flowers. He had already raised his energy to the extreme. He didn't want to waste any more time, and ended the battle immediately. Thunder roar. Xia Xingchen's eyes suddenly entered a state of confusion. Blue arcs of electricity danced in his eyes. With a long roar, the King Long Mecha opened its mouth, and spewed out a thick column of thunder light, covering the insect man's body. Boom. At the same time, the right hand of the King Long Mecha condensed a huge black drill with a diameter of 100 meters, spinning wildly and rushing over. Thunder roar. Spiral sky breaking drill. Xia Xingchen had never used these two killer moves together. Boom. The insect god showed a look of horror. At this moment, the energy bursting out of the King Long Mecha was more than doubled compared to before. It was simply a demon. The violent energy fluctuations made his blood rush all over his body. Bang! The huge black drill hit the insect man's face fiercely. The carapace shattered, blood splattered, and the whole face was shattered. Whoosh! Seeing that the momentum was not good, the insect man shook the black wings behind him and immediately wanted to escape. However, the left hand of the King Long Mecha firmly grasped his ankle, making him unable to break free, and the right hand drill hit it hard again. The insect god was furious. Green blood splashed like a rain curtain, covering the entire island in a green rain. This green blood was highly corrosive. As soon as it fell on the surface of the King Long Mecha, it was evaporated by the blue arc wrapped around it, and it could not touch the King Long Mecha body at all. Squeak. The teeth grinding sound of the drill filled the entire space. The insect man's body was as strong as diamond, but under the crazy impact of the black drill, the chest was completely pierced. I knew it. This is your weakness. Although you are very good at controlling energy. However, this kind of calculated fighting method shows that you lack energy. If you don't lack energy, why are you still in the state of insect eggs, not hatched into a complete body, and use the transformed body of Harglian to fight me? Aren't you very strong? Aren't you a celestial being? Come and fight me with your original body. Xia Xingchen's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. The spiral drill in the hands of the King Long Mecha smashed down again and again, pressing the huge body of the insect man to the ground. Squeak. The body of the insect man finally couldn't hold on, and turned into a pool of flesh and blood, no longer moving. Insect god, how does a human fist taste? Xia Xingchen looked up, and looked at the trembling mountain insect eggs. The body of the insect man transformed by Harglian was crushed into a pool of meat by the King Long Mecha with pure energy. The insect god just controlled the body of the insect man, and his spiritual body was also severely damaged. The mountain insect egg kept trembling, and under the skin, there was a huge body ready to move. Anyone can feel that the insect god is now in an extreme anger. The noble Zerg was actually defeated and threatened by a human. This is a shame for the insect god. The Zerg is a special race that can directly inherit the memory of its ancestors. Although the insect god is still in the state of an egg, it has existed for tens of thousands of years, and its memory can be traced back to the moment when the universe was just born. In the endless universe, and in any galaxy, the Zerg is synonymous with terror. It traveled through the starry sky and dormant in the Milky Way for tens of thousands of years. It finally woke up, and was about to hatch, transform into a mature body, and destroy this starry sky. However, what the insect god did not expect, was that he was severely humiliated by humans, before he was fully hatched, and even his life was threatened. Unforgivable. Unforgivable. The insect god was completely crazy. Bang. Xia Xingchen didn't say much to the insect god. He drove the Qinglang mecha and hit the mountain insect eggs with a spiral sky-breaking drill. As expected, the defense of the mountain insect eggs was very terrifying. Xia Xingchen's attack only left a white spot on the external shell. Any alien demons nearby who dared to come forward were easily killed by Xia Xingchen. Without the insect man standing by and watching, it was only a matter of time before the Azure Dragon Mech destroyed the mountain insect eggs. Bang. Another fierce punch fell. The insect god felt incomparable pain. Just now, he controlled the insect man, and didn't feel any pain. At this moment, Xia Xingchen was directly attacking the main body. Pain. Heart-wrenching pain. It can be imagined how powerful Xia Xingchen's attack was. You know, the insect god is a celestial being of the insect race, born with a strong body, and ordinary attacks can't hurt him at all. Bang, bang, bang. The Azure Dragon Mech punched the shell of the mountain insect eggs one by one, making it dented. Humble human. How dare you? You're dead. You're dead. The insect god was completely crazy and cursed loudly. All crystal insects, whether mature or not, all hatch. The will of the insect god, like a frenzy, suddenly spread out and covered the entire demon star. On the surface of the demon star, a gathering place for humans. Thousands of alien demons are rushing over and are besieging the gathering place for humans. Under Solomon's command, humans are driving mechas and fighting bloody battles to resist the attacks of alien demons. The strength of these alien demons is much weaker than before. The young geniuses have been tempered by battles and gained practical experience. With this increase and decrease, humans can barely resist the enemy's attack. However, the number of alien demons is too large. They are like moths to a flame, madly attacking the gathering place of humans, tearing the front line, and breaking through a big hole. It's over. There is not enough energy. The nuclear fuel rods are used up. There are still many enemies. We are not opponents. There was a panic in the human camp. Solomon, Dishan, Laura and others all had a look of despair on their faces. At this moment, a strange change suddenly appeared. The alien demons all stopped their movements in an instant and fell to the ground. One after another, huge moths flew out from the heart of the alien demons and flapped their wings to fly high into the sky. Chapter 1109. The Insect God Awakens. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Thousands of alien demons fell to the ground and died on the entire demon star. Crystal moths flew out from their chests. Whoosh whoosh. The crystal moths flapped their wings like a dark cloud covering the sky and the sun and gathered towards the same place. The raging war on the demon star suddenly extinguished at this moment. The entire planet became silent, with only the sound of moths flapping their wings. The sound of a moth flapping its wings was originally extremely weak, but when thousands of moths gathered together, the flapping sound was like a hurricane. In the human gathering place, young geniuses drove their scarred and miserable mechas, looking up at the huge dark cloud of moths, with shock on their faces. Although they didn't know what happened, everyone's heart was filled with extreme anxiety. Boom. The earth was shaking, and several high mountains on the surface of the demon star emitted black smoke, sprayed hot fireballs, and hot magma flowed out. Countless volcanoes erupted at the same time. The color of the entire demon star was dyed red. The sky and the earth were scorching hot. In the underground lava sea, on the central island, at this moment, time seemed to have stopped. The scorching magma stopped flowing. The splashing boulders also stopped in midair. Xia Xingchen was still driving the Qinglang mecha, and the drill in his right hand maintained an offensive posture. On the ground, hundreds of young geniuses trapped by white spider silk were staring at Xia Xingchen with their eyes wide open, their eyelids unblinking. The only thing moving was countless alien demons falling from the sky, with a big hole in their chests, and crystal moths flew out and flew towards the mountain insect eggs. Other human mecha masters who were parasitized and controlled by insects also had crystal moths flying out of their bodies, and they died instantly. HHH. Countless crystal moths flew onto the mountain insect eggs, densely covering them, extending their curved mouthparts like catheters, and piercing into the mountain insect eggs. Gulp gulp. The telekinetic crystals emitting blue fluorescence were injected into the mountain insect eggs in the form of liquid. The crystal moths that lost the telekinetic crystals became withered, leaving only a skin. Without the telekinetic crystals, their lives came to an end. They fell from the high mountain insect eggs and turned into powder in mid-air. The mountain insect eggs were injected with a large amount of telekinetic crystals, and their bodies expanded rapidly like a balloon, soaring to 10 times their original size. In the Kinglang Mecha, Xia Xingchen was shocked. Although his body could not move, he knew very well that this was not an illusion. This is a domain. Xia Xingchen clearly felt a terrible force permeating the surrounding space. This force was so powerful that not only himself, but even time was frozen at this moment. Everyone, including him, was like a little bug frozen in amber, unable to move. Even the little finger could not move. It really is a domain. One RUI's voice rang in Xia Xingchen's mind. Although time was still, the spirit could still communicate. The spirit is not limited by time and space. When a mecha master enters a legendary level, he may comprehend the power of the domain. The power of the domain can be seen as an extension of superpowers. However, the domain is more powerful than superpowers. However, I have never heard of a domain that can control time. Powerful, too powerful. One RUI exclaimed. Xia Xingchen couldn't help but feel a sense of fear in his heart at this moment. Facing this huge mountain insect egg, Xia Xingchen felt as small as a worm. Boom boom boom. The lava under the ground seemed to be boiling, bubbling wildly, emitting strong vibrations and erupting violently. The water level of the lava sea rose all the way, and the central island was a floating island. As the lava rose, it quickly floated up from the ground to the ground. Boom. With a bang, the underground dome was pierced by the rushing magma and hot air, and the entire central island appeared on the surface of the demon star with the diffused magma. Although Xia Xingchen couldn't move, he could see it clearly with the naked eye. That is, Xia Xingchen was shocked to see that in the center of the rolling magma, the mountain insect egg had expanded to a height of thousands of meters, becoming a mountain that needed to be looked up at. In the air above the demon star, tens of thousands of crystal moths fell on the mountain insect eggs like clouds, piercing their mouthparts to deliver nutrients to them. Countless crystal moths fell like snowflakes, covering the ground with white. Finally, the mountain insect egg cracked open, and a large hand covered with scales stretched out from it. This large hand was 100 meters long, and just looking at it made Xia Xingchen feel desperate. He didn't need this hand, just one finger, to crush him into a pulp. The gap in strength was too big, like heaven and earth. This large hand was covered with countless smooth scales, and these scales formed several palm prints, which were clearly visible. The palm print pattern was ancient and mottled, and was somewhat similar to the picture of life. Everyone who saw this scene felt the same suffocating despair as Xia Xingchen. Snap, snap, snap. A head popped out from above the mountain insect eggs. A bug's head. A triangular head, with a mouth full of fine teeth, and huge eyes full of compound eyes. Then, the huge body of the insect god also broke free from the insect eggs. Its body was 1,000 meters high, covered with dark brown cuticles, and looked like an arthropod insect. The legs behind it were like huge compasses with barbs all over them. In front of it, there were 2 large hands similar to human palms, and 2 huge pincer feet. Human. You angered me. Because of you, I don't have enough energy to evolve into a complete body. But this half-complete body is enough to destroy this planet. In the compound eyes of the insect god, thousands of images of Xia Xingchen were reflected. Xia Xingchen couldn't move, and he exclaimed in his heart, "Heavenly man. This is a heavenly man." For the first time, Xia Xingchen truly felt the strong sense of oppression brought by the heavenly man. The evolutionary path of life, different paths lead to the same destination, but the path is different. The heights that other celestial beings can reach with the help of technology, the celestial beings of the Zerg can also reach with their bodies. Xia Xingchen had no doubt that, if the insect god in front of him evolved into a complete form, not to mention crushing himself. Even destroying the entire human race would not be a difficult task. The god-favored clan is a life specially created by the Zerg in order to wake me up and find food for me. They are similar to worker bees. Now that I have awakened, their clan has been completely wiped out. This is their fate. And my fate is to destroy you humans. Complete destruction. This ancient Zerg that has been sleeping for tens of thousands of years, just hatched from the egg state, destroyed the demon clan that shocked the chaotic starfield. The huge compound ice swept over Xia Xingchen and the Mecha masters who had sensed the change and rushed over from the human gathering place as if looking at a group of ants. Chapter 11:10 The King takes action. All the humans present felt the strong killing intention of the insect god. Are you going to die? No. I don't want to die. I still want to bring honor to my family. My parents are still counting on me to get back what originally belonged to us. Yui's eyes were full of anxiety and uneasiness, but in the time domain of the insect god, his face was stiff, and he couldn't even change his expression slightly. Heavenly man, a truly perfect creature, an existence that can destroy planets and even galaxies. The trapped young geniuses were also full of despair at this moment. Facing the insect god, they couldn't even have the slightest thought of resistance in their hearts. Xia Xingchen also clearly felt that death was approaching him step by step like a substance. He felt that he couldn't breathe. Xia Xingchen had never felt such a strong sense of despair. Even on Xianniuan Star, Xia Xingchen single-handedly rescued Qinjana from the execution ground. In such a desperate situation, Xia Xingchen never gave up hope. However, at this moment, Xia Xingchen felt deeply powerless. Unable to resist, unable to win, only to surrender. This humble feeling made Xia Xingchen extremely unwilling. I haven't officially married Jaina yet. I haven't fought back to Xianniuan Star to rescue Princess Yu. There are also divine messengers who are plotting to destroy humanity. The brothers of Yazi. The plan to kill Emperor Nicholas has not been completed yet. There are still many things waiting for me to do. I don't want to die. I can't die. Xia Xingchen was shouting in his heart, but he was helpless in the face of the insect god. Humans, I will give you a sweet death. The insect god laughed and raised his foot, with his huge foot ready to crush Xia Xingchen to death. At this moment, the insect god suddenly felt a hint of surprise on his face, and looked up into the air. Boom. A colorful and thick energy beam fell straight down from the sky, like a punishment from heaven, hitting the top of the insect god's head without bias. The energy contained in this beam of light was so terrifying that even the insect god's body was slightly bent, and he almost fell to the ground. Above the demon star, a large hole appeared in the clouds that had never dispersed for years. The scorching sun poured down from the sky. Under this light, a huge warship 10,000 meters long slowly landed. The muzzle of the huge main gun was red. Obviously, the energy beam just now was the main gun bombardment. The King's space carrier, the skull with a golden crown, showed a hideous smile on the outer wall of the space carrier. Human warships. Such big warships. There was a hint of surprise in the compound eyes of the insect god, and he murmured, could it be the Starfield Ark of the ancient humans? If it is the Starfield Ark, then things will be troublesome. The mecha of that human boy has the heart of thunder, which is obviously inherited by the ancient humans. It is very likely to be the Starfield Ark. No. The ancient humans are not easy to mess with. I'm not a complete body yet, and I'm not the opponent of the Starfield Ark. The insect god thought to himself, in the war tens of thousands of years ago, I was severely damaged by the Starfield Ark, so I could only turn into insect eggs and hibernate on this desolate planet for tens of thousands of years. After becoming a celestial being, the insect race can inherit the memory of their ancestors. In the distant memory of the insect god, it is very clear how terrible the ancient humans are. The personal combat ability of the insect god is indeed very strong. However, the insect god is just a single individual. The ancient humans have countless individuals using super technology to drive warships and mechas. Even if the insect god kills some humans, there are still a steady stream of humans coming to kill. Moreover, there are very terrifying strong people among the ancient humans. Even the insect god is no match for these terrifying strong men. In the distant past, ancient humans were the true overlords of the starry sky. The Zerg were hunted down and could only live in remote planets. Starfield Arc. The insect god looked up and looked at the huge space carrier that was 10,000 meters long. Although the energy fluctuations of this space carrier were not strong, the insect god was sure that he could destroy it in a short time. However, the fear of ancient humans has been deeply engraved in the heart of the insect god. It dared not make a move. Go. Wait until I evolve into a complete form, and then I will come to take revenge. The long memory has given the insect god extremely high wisdom. He does not only know how to kill, but also knows how to advance and retreat. Swish. The carapace behind the insect god opened to both sides, and 6 flying wings over 1,000 meters long appeared. With a slight shake, it flew towards the sky. Buzz buzz buzz. The space was distorted. The gravity of the demon star was terrifying, but it could not restrain the insect god at all. It directly broke through the atmosphere and entered the universe. Boom. The insect god opened his mouth and sent out an energy wave, blasting a dimensional crack in the dark universe ahead. Its body is extremely strong, able to withstand space storms and directly use wormholes to shuttle. Once the insect god enters the wormhole, it is almost impossible to find it again. HMPH, tiny human. I will let you go for now. When I become a complete body, it will be your death. The head of the insect god has entered the wormhole, thinking angrily in his heart. However, heavenly net. A golden light flashed in the void, and a huge energy net trapped the body of the insect god. 10 mechas appeared from the universe, holding the energy net tightly in their hands. The King Star Pirates. The strongest star pirates of mankind. 10 legendary mecha masters have been ambushing here for a long time, and they acted together to trap the body of the insect god. The leader is Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen is driving a silver legendary mecha and is commanding the other 9 people to frantically inject energy into the energy net. Ha ha ha. Captain 1 is indeed a master of foresight. He predicted that this little bug would escape. I really don't know how your brain grows. You can predict things like a god. The one-eyed star pirate and the one-legged star pirate both laughed. Don't talk, concentrate. The insect god is not an ordinary opponent. You must not be careless. Xia Xingchen shouted loudly. How dare you, a tiny human, ambush me? The huge body of the insect god was struggling hard, trying to tear the energy net apart. However, 10 legendary mecha masters attacked together, which is extremely rare in human history, and the energy they controlled is also very amazing. With the power of the insect god, it was actually unable to break free from the shackles of the energy net for a while. Shrink. Xia Xingchen shouted. Shrink. Shrink. The other legendary star pirates also shouted loudly. The energy net quickly shrank, like a fishing net, tightly wrapped around the body of the insect god. Squeak. The high temperature of the energy net burned the flesh and skin, leaving scorch marks all over the body of the insect god. Although this energy net cannot cause substantial damage to the insect god for the time being, it can bring it great pain. It hurts. It hurts. The insect god's body trembled. In order to relieve the pain, he could only shrink his body as much as possible. As a celestial being of the insect race with a perfect body, the insect god has the ability to control his body at will. His body began to shrink, trying to escape from the hole in the energy network. Chapter 11:11 The Final Trial. Shrink. Xia Xingchen roared, sweat on his head. At the command, 10 legendary space pirates who had once dominated the universe, all used their strength to tightly grasp the joystick of the mecha, and poured endless mental power into the energy network. This energy network was a treasure found in an extremely ancient alien relic by the King Space Pirates when they dominated the Star Sea and explored alien relics a long time ago. It is somewhat similar to Xia Xingchen's magic weapon system, and both are directly driven by mental power. However, the mental power acquired for this energy network is too terrifying. Only when 10 legendary mecha masters work together can they use this energy network together. The body of the insect god shrank, and the holes of the energy network shrank as well. The insect god shrank by 100 meters, and the holes also shrank by 100 meters. Damn it. Shrink, shrink again. The insect god was anxious and shrank crazily. The huge body of 1,000 meters high became 100 meters in a blink of an eye. 50 meters. 10 meters. 5 meters. 1 meter. The insect god has been shrinking to a size of 1 meter, but the energy net is still tightly attached to its body, as if it is wearing a golden fishing net. Although the insect god can control its own body and grow or shrink at will, there is a limit after all. In the end, the insect god shrank to the size of a palm and turned back into the state of an insect egg. The insect god is confident that with the current technology of mankind, as long as it turns into an insect egg, it cannot be destroyed. Moreover, the energy stored in the insect god is now sufficient. Unlike the previous injured and withered state, it is only a stopgap measure to turn into an insect egg and can wake up at any time. However, Xia Xingchen seemed to have expected everything. When he saw the insect god turn into an insect egg, he immediately flew over in a mecha with a special rapid freezing box in his hand and put the insect eggs into the freezer. Swish! The temperature in the freezer immediately approached absolute zero, completely freezing the insect eggs. The insect god is not afraid of heat and builds a nest in the center of the magma sea, but cold is its nemesis. Finally, I caught you. My plan has completed the most important step. Xia Xingchen looked at the insect eggs in the freezer with an evil smile on his face. In the battle on the Demon Star, the insect god was captured by Xia Xingchen. This battle took place in outer space, and there were very few witnesses. It was not until a long time later that one or two were revealed. The King Star Pirates, 10 legendary mecha masters, died after this battle due to exhaustion. One-eyed dragons in Mu, one horned wit, and 3 other strong men were all among them. The death of 5 legendary mecha masters shows how thrilling this battle was. However, Xinmu and others left a will, although we will die of exhaustion in this battle, to capture the insect god. If we can exchange it for the freedom of our eldest brother Roger, we are willing. On the Demon Star, all the strong men of the god's favored clan were killed by the insect god, leaving only some old, weak, women and children, who were not even qualified to be parasitized by the crystal worms. The planetary volcano erupted, the underground magma flowed wantonly, the environment became worse, and the civilization of the god-favored was completely destroyed. The fertility of the god-favored people is not strong, and it takes 10 years to give birth to a descendant. Within 1,000 years, there is no need to worry. The King's space aircraft carrier landed on the surface of the Demon Star. Phoenix, Mad God, and Evil Dragon led the crew to save the human survivors. After the final count, the number of people who survived the second trial was a total of 273. The number of people who participated in the second trial was 821, and 273 survived, with a survival rate of 33%, which was a well-deserved death trial. Hundreds of talented young geniuses fell on the Demon Star. The 273 survivors returned to the Gold and Silver Star on the King's space aircraft carrier, and there was no joy on everyone's face. They are all geniuses who are 1 in a million, and have flexible minds. The difficulty of the second trial has far exceeded their psychological expectations. If Xia Xingchen had not provided a large number of nuclear fuel rods, their chances of survival would be even lower, perhaps only 1%. Obviously, the organizers of the trial knew that there was a bug god on the Demon Star. Knowing that the bug god was about to awaken, the organizers still chose the Demon Star as the trial site, just to use these young geniuses as cannon fodder, to lure out the bug god and finally capture him. All the young geniuses knew it, but no one said it out loud. After returning to the Gold and Silver Star, the 273 survivors were summoned to a huge golden palace. The Mad God stood in the center of the palace and announced loudly, "Congratulations, everyone. Although some of you did not hunt the alien demon head, after discussion with our organizers, it was decided that all survivors would pass the trial. All of you are eligible to participate in the third trial." All the survivors passed the trial? What's that? Someone immediately became indignant and said angrily, "I worked hard to hunt on the Demon Star and survived a narrow escape. These cowards hid in the camp and dared not go out. How can everyone pass? I don't accept it." That's right. Everyone passed. This is the greatest injustice. Why let everyone pass? Don't you think? Not enough people died in the second trial? All the geniuses were shouting loudly, questioning the decision of the Mad God. Haha, why? Because of this. The Mad God grinned, raised his sandbag-sized fist, and shook it in front of everyone. Everyone was silent. The mad god's meaning was very clear. The bigger the fist, the more reasonable it is. The law of the universe is that the strong prey on the weak. If a race wants to survive, it must keep fighting, keep evolving, and keep getting stronger, so as not to be destroyed by a stronger enemy. You don't need to worry. The strong will always be strong, and the weak will always be weak. The difficulty of the third trial is higher than the second trial, and the mortality rate is even more terrifying. Cowards hiding in the camp, I still advise you to have some self-knowledge. Don't give up your life in vain, and give up as soon as possible. The mad god said loudly, I declare that the final trial will begin in 3 days. From all the trial participants, Lord Roger will select 10 apprentices. The top 3 are eligible to join the King Star Pirates. I will give you 10 minutes. Those who give up, leave the palace immediately. 10 apprentices. The top 3 are eligible to join the King Star Pirates. There was a sudden silence in the palace. Everyone's eyes were burning. Roger is the strongest man in the world. Becoming his apprentice and being able to get his guidance will benefit you a lot in your future practice. Joining the King Star Pirates is even more incredible. In the past, the Star Pirate King Roger led the Star Pirates, roaming the Star Sea, invincible, killing people and robbing goods, exploring ruins, accumulating countless wealth, and finding countless treasures. Becoming a member of the Star Pirates means being able to obtain the right to use these wealth and treasures. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 11-12 The number of 99. The temptation is huge, and every young genius is ready to make a move. However, everyone also suppressed their ambitions. After all, the risk is too great. Roger's trial is too difficult. Although the young geniuses are all very confident, the second trial made them realize their own strength. In their own planets and starfields, they are all top geniuses. However, among these 273 people, most of them are dim. There is no way. Some people are too dazzling. Among them, the most dazzling is Xia Xingchen and 1 RUI. These 2 people alone occupy 2 places out of the 10. And from Xia Xingchen's previous performance, he even occupies one of the top 3 places. Everyone's eyes are now focused on Xia Xingchen. For this result, Xia Xingchen can only shake his head and smile bitterly. The wind will surely urge the tree to stand out in the forest. Becoming the focus of everyone's attention is not a good thing most of the time. For example, now, among the 273 survivors, except for the 100 who were captured, and the few who hid in the camp, and dared not fight, all the remaining 100 were strong. Being strong is not scary. Xia Xingchen was very confident in his fighting ability, and he was never afraid to fight with the strong. However, among these strong men, some were extremely shrewd and still hid their strength. Being strong and scheming is extremely scary. Xia Xingchen's mental power level is still level 47. Although he has improved a lot after the Demon Star trial, he is still an A-level mecha master. Compared with S-level mecha masters, or even 1 RUI, Xia Xingchen is at a disadvantage in fighting because of his low mental power level. There is no way. We can only take it one step at a time. Xia Xingchen sighed softly. Those who give up, leave the palace immediately. The mad god shouted loudly. Among the 273 survivors, no one moved. Not everyone is confident in themselves and thinks they can pass the third trial and save their lives. However, everyone was young and had not yet learned to be smooth and face saving, so they were embarrassed to be the first to give up. I give up. 3 minutes later, someone finally came out of the crowd first. Bing Lan, wearing a white dress that was more beautiful than snow, had an excellent temperament, and was like a fairy who had been banished to the earth. She changed into a long dress and immediately attracted everyone's attention. Xia Xingchen, I will remember your great kindness in my heart. When your trial is over, if you have time to come to the South Pole Star region, my family and I will treat you as a guest of honor. Bing Lan walked in front of Xia Xingchen, grasped her slender waist, bowed in the ancient Chinese etiquette, and turned around, leaving the palace with her long dress swaying. To be honest, Bing Lan still wanted to participate in the final trial. It was not for fame, but she wanted to spend more time with Xia Xingchen, even if she could see each other with her own eyes. However, Bing Lan knew herself. She knew that she had lost her life in vain by participating in the trial. If she died, everything would be gone. If she lived, even if it was unrequited love, at least she could still remember. Bing Lan thought so, and chose to abstain. Someone was the first to try it, and the rest of the people no longer had to worry about their face, and some people abstained. In a blink of an eye, most of the young geniuses in the palace had left. There was no way. The cruelty of the Demon Star trial had left a psychological shadow in their hearts. They were almost all noble children with outstanding family backgrounds, young and talented, with unlimited future and unlimited possibilities. Even if they did not become Roger's apprentice, it would not affect their future brilliant life. Therefore, these people chose to abstain. I abstain too. Solomon stood up, walked in front of Xia Xingchen, with a smile on his face, and thanked him. Brother Xingchen, thank you for your care on the Demon Star. The Solomon family is a single lineage family. I have not married yet and have no children. Therefore, please forgive my cowardice and cannot accompany you. Every family has its own problems, I understand. Xia Xingchen nodded and smiled. If we meet again in the future, I will treat you to a drink. The wine from my hometown is mellow and stronger than iron wine, Solomon said with a smile. Definitely. Xia Xingchen nodded. Solomon walked forward and, in front of the young genius, did not care about Xia Xingchen's status as an S-level wanted criminal at all. The two hugged and said goodbye. After Solomon, Dishan also gave up and left the palace. Zilong stood at the window of the room on the second floor of the palace, looking at Dishan's back, shook his head slightly, and was very disappointed. Dishan was found by Zilong, and he was very optimistic about him. Dishan was very strong and smart. However, Dishan's weakness was something Zilong did not expect. There is no way. Smart people are too rational, weighing the pros and cons, and worrying about gains and losses. Sometimes it is not a good thing. Phoenix advised from the side. Everyone has their own ambitions, and they can't force it. It's just that the second trial arranged by Captain 1, it really exceeded everyone's expectations. Zilong sighed. Time passed by minute, and more than half of the 273 young survivors gave up. There were less than 100 people left in the whole hall, which seemed a bit empty. However, among the remaining people, each of them had a defiant look in their eyes, looking at those who gave up and left with disdain. These people are all strong. Seeing that the 10-minute deadline was about to come, one RUI stood beside Xia Xingchen, looking anxious. Brother Xingchen. What should I do? Otherwise, I will also give up. My mecha is destroyed, and I can't fight next. 3 days is enough. I can design and manufacture a new mecha for you. Xia Xingchen said, of course, if you feel that you are not strong enough and voluntarily give up this opportunity, I won't say anything. 3 days can design a new mecha. One RUI's eyes lit up. Give up. I have fought so hard to get to this point. How can I give up? Brother Xingchen, I believe in you. Yeah. Xia Xingchen nodded gently. Okay. Time is up. The crazy god clapped his hands and announced that the 10 minutes were up. 10 minutes is too short to decide the future. After counting the number of people, the god of madness smiled and said, there are 81 people in total. What a coincidence. It is exactly 99. You go back and rest and prepare to participate in the final trial in 3 days. By the way, tell your family in advance that the final trial will be broadcast live throughout the galaxy. Let them watch. Live broadcast. Some people are happy and some are worried. Some people think that it is a rare good thing that they can show their strength in front of trillions of humans in the galaxy. However, some people are stage fright and afraid of embarrassment, especially in front of their families. Xia Xingchen was neither sad nor happy. He immediately returned to his room and worked at his desk to design a new mecha for 1 RUI. It took too little time to design a new mecha in 3 days. However, Xia Xingchen already had a great idea. The next mecha is the strongest mecha designed by Xia Xingchen himself so far. Chapter 11 13-Dimensional Cube. For 3 days, Xia Xingchen had been locked in the room, designing a new mecha for 1RUI. He never came out of the door and even had food delivered directly to the room. In the blink of an eye, the 3 days were up. Xia Xingchen pushed the door open. His eye sockets were sunken. His face was pale, but there was a smile on his lips. He said to 1RUI who was waiting anxiously at the door, "Hard work pays off, and we finally caught up. It's a pity that you don't have time to test drive the new mecha, so you can only experience it in battle. Brother Xingchen, I see that you haven't rested for 3 days and 3 nights. The final trial is about to begin. Others are resting their energy, but you are working hard and looking so haggard. If my things affect your performance, I will die." 1RUI looked terrified. "How much energy can you get in 3 days?" Xia Xingchen smiled. "Don't worry about me. Let's go. I just heard the broadcast that the final trial has begun. The final trial of Xia Xingchen is finally about to begin. This time, 10 people will be selected from the extremely talented young geniuses in the entire galaxy to become the apprentices of Roger, the strongest man in the human race. The top 3 will have the opportunity to join the King of Star Pirates and share Roger's wealth as the King of Star Pirates. We watched the first trial through the live broadcast on the internet. However, the first trial was a physical battle without driving a mecha. It was not exciting enough to watch. I heard that the second Demon Star trial was very tragic. Many people died. It's a pity there was no live broadcast. Otherwise, it would have been very exciting. The geniuses of the younger generation of the Milky Way, who has the strength and luck to become the apprentice of the strongest man in the human race. On various planets in the Milky Way, countless people gathered in front of the screen to watch the live broadcast. This live broadcast used the latest superwave communication system to reduce the signal transmission delay as much as possible. Of course, due to the distance, there are still many remote planets that will not be able to see the live scene until dozens of days later, but for them, it is equivalent to a live broadcast. Such a grand occasion is rare in a century. Galaxy TV monopolized the broadcasting rights at a high price, and the ratings hit a new high. There are also many people who feel that watching the live broadcast in front of the screen is not enough, so they all drive spaceships and come to the nearby starfield of Xia Star in advance. However, they cannot enter the atmosphere of Xia Star and can only wait outside to wait for the battle situation. Xia Star, on the huge golden square. The 81 young geniuses who participated in the competition drove their own mechas and stood in the square waiting with solemn expressions. They knew that they were finally qualified to see the true appearance of Roger, the Star Pirate King. Boom. The earth shook. A huge mecha 100 meters high fell from the sky, with black armor, a golden crown on its head, and a huge skull scepter behind it. Just looking at it gave people a heavy sense of oppression. Roger's mecha. The Star Pirate King mecha. It's Roger. Finally I saw Roger in person. A young man exclaimed immediately. Giant mecha. Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up, licked his lips, and looked up at the behemoth. Teachers Zuo Lehun and Hao Xian are right in their predictions. The future development direction of mechas is towards large and giant ones. However, the larger the size of the mecha, the higher the mental strength required of the mecha master. Even Roger, the strongest man in the human race, has a mecha that is only 100 meters high. Xia Xingchen was shocked, but it's so cool. It turns out that big ships and cannons are the romance of men. Master. The 3 legendary mecha masters, Mad God, Evil Dragon, and Phoenix, knelt down in front of the Star Pirate King's mecha. Yes. The mecha nodded its head lightly, turned around and sat on the huge golden throne, and announced, "I, Star Pirate King Roger, announce that the final trial has officially begun." Roger's voice was like thunder, rumbling and spreading throughout the golden silver star. Swish. The clouds in the sky split apart, and a golden light fell. 81 streams of light flew down from the sky, stopped and floated in the air, and they were transparent cubes. These cubes have transparent surfaces and can be seen inside. There are cracks horizontally and vertically, dividing them into 64 small cubes. This is a dimensional cube. Each small cube is a small trial space. There are a total of 64 layers. Each layer is more difficult than the previous one. Even I can only break into the 36th layer. Roger waved his hand and said, "Your final trial is very simple. Try to go forward. If the number of layers is the same, then it depends on how long you survive in the space. The longer you live, the higher your ranking. I will only accept the top 10 as my apprentices. Go." A beam of light came out of the dimensional cube, shining on everyone, and sucking them directly into the cube. Inside the dimensional cube, Xia Xingchen drove the Qinglong mecha through the transparent wall, and went directly into the interior. He felt a slight dizziness in his head, obviously because of a short distance teleportation. Xia Xingchen took a breath, calmed down, and looked around. The dimensional cube looks small on the outside, but it is very spacious inside. There are flat walls on all 6 sides, covering hundreds of square kilometers, and there is gravity to stand on. The center is equivalent to the sky. There is a black door at the core. Obviously, through this black door, you can enter the next layer of the dimensional cube. The walls of the dimensional cube are transparent. There are many drones floating outside. The cameras are running and transmitting the images to the audiences on various planets in the Milky Way. 1 RUI. Xia Xingchen tried to contact 1 RUI with mental power. "Yeah. Brother Xingchen. This place is so wonderful. I feel a strong energy fluctuation." 1 RUI's surprised voice came back through mental power. The dimensional cube is not completely closed, and they can communicate with each other through mental power. The final trial, no time limit. I will watch to the end. I advise you to give up immediately if you can't hold on. The dimensional cube is extremely dangerous. Don't lose your life. Now, officially start. Roger gave an order. Buzz. 81 dimensional cubes were suspended in the sky. Monsters began to pour out of the black door in the middle, preventing the trialists from approaching. Xia Xingchen was driving the Qinglong mecha, standing on the flat ground. He condensed a spiral spear in his right hand and looked at the monsters in front of him. These monsters were of various shapes. Some were birds, some were beasts. They were not intelligent races, but wild beasts. Without any hesitation, they rushed towards the Qinglong mecha. "Kill!" Xia Xingchen shouted, and the silver spiral spear in the hand of the Qinglong mecha swung, piercing the fierce bat swooping down from the front like lightning. The bird immediately turned into a ball of black light, floating in the air for a while, and condensed into the shape of a bird again, flying towards Xia Xingchen. "Can't kill." Xia Xingchen was shocked. On the first layer of the dimensional cube, these monsters can't be killed, and they keep popping up. It seems the only way is to rush into the door and enter the next layer. Chapter 11:14 Sword God Mecha. Charge. Xia Xingchen's eyes fixed, and he immediately used traveling in the sky. The Azure Dragon Mech turned into a stream of blue light and rushed towards the black door in the center of the dimensional cube. Along the way, the silver spiral spear was waved, and all the black beasts that dared to block the way were crushed and turned into powder. The black beasts on the first floor were too weak for Xia Xingchen. In less than 10 seconds, Xia Xingchen had already rushed into the black door and successfully entered the second cube. The second cube was different from the first one. It was full of water. The water was full of black sharks, each of which was 20 meters long, with sharp teeth and wide mouths, biting towards the Azure Dragon Mech. Swish. The silver spiral spear stabbed out and pierced straight into the mouth of the black shark. Snap. Before the shark died, its teeth bit down hard and actually bit off the spiral spear. The spiral spear was transformed by the magic weapon system using Xia Xingchen's spiritual power. One of the spears was broken, and as soon as he stretched out his hand, a new spiral spear condensed in the palm of the Qinglong mecha. In the second layer, the strength of these beasts is much higher than that of the first layer. The strength and speed are 5 times higher than before. Xia Xingchen looked at the data fed back from the detector with a look of surprise on his face. The gap is 5 times in the first layer. Then the next layer is also 5 times. Xia Xingchen calculated silently in his mind, and the surprise on his face became more and more intense. The second layer is 5 times. The third layer is 25. The fourth layer is 125. The fifth layer is 625. The sixth layer is 3125. The seventh layer. Xia Xingchen did not continue to calculate, because it was meaningless to calculate. If the difficulty of the dimensional magic cube increases by 5 times, then Xia Xingchen can only break through to the 5th layer at most, and even the 4th layer will be unbearable. This gradient of increasing difficulty is too terrifying. Roger, the strongest man in the human race, actually broke through to the 36th floor? What a terrifying astronomical number that is. Xia Xingchen was amazed. Forget it, it's useless to think about it. Just try your best to rush forward. Xia Xingchen shook his head and switched the thruster of the Qinglong mecha to the magneto-hydrodynamic engine. The waves behind him swept like a raging sea dragon, rushing towards the central black door. After a fierce fight, Xia Xingchen finally broke through the 2nd cube and entered the 3rd cube. The 3rd cube was a lush forest, and black pythons of the same size as the star-devouring python were coiled everywhere on the tree trunks. Xia Xingchen's estimate was correct. The speed, strength and vitality of the black python in this cube were 5 times that of the previous one. Even Xia Xingchen was caught in a hard battle for a while. Xia Xingchen rushed into the 3rd cube. This level is even more difficult. The final trial is even more difficult. Even Xia Xingchen is caught in a hard battle. Xia Xingchen attracted the attention of many people. Whether it was Xia Xingchen's friends or enemies, they were all paying attention to his battle at this moment. Especially the enemies, they didn't even blink. Xia Xingchen is very strong. His Azure Dragon mecha is good at recovery, and his killer mace is also powerful. However, Xia Xingchen's own mental power level is too low, and the destructive power of ordinary attacks is not enough. If he frequently uses his killer mace, his mental power will not be able to bear it. That's right, in addition to Xia Xingchen, there are 30 mecha masters who have also rushed into the 3rd cube. And they fight more easily than him. Oh my god, someone broke through the 3rd floor and entered the 4th floor. The first to enter the 4th floor. The spectators suddenly exclaimed. Swish. Almost everyone's eyes turned away and focused on the first person to enter the 4th floor. It was an extremely young face, wearing a white coat, with a handsome face that was slightly cold, his teeth biting his lips slightly, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes from time to time. One RUI, driving a new mecha, left the other trialists far behind, and was the first to enter the 4th floor. The 4th cube was a sea of fire. Countless flames condensed into a fiery element, burning with flames all over his body, and rushed towards one RUI. This level is even more difficult. However, one RUI was driving a new mecha, with hundreds of swords suspended behind him. He pointed at it casually. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. There were countless sounds of breaking through the air, and hundreds of swords gathered into a torrent, rushing towards the fire element, instantly killing it. One RUI's expression was very relaxed, and it was obvious that he had not yet used all his strength. What kind of mecha is this? I've never seen it before. The audience was all amazed. Does one RUI's mecha look like the sword fairy in the Chinese legend? Yes, it looks like the sword fairy. With a casual finger, all the swords returned to their roots. Some Chinese audience members even screamed at this moment. One RUI's mecha was designed and manufactured by Xia Xingchen using the sword fairy in the Chinese legend and one RUI's ability to control metal. The name of this mecha is Sword God. To be honest, when one RUI first drove the sword body mecha, he was not satisfied with it, thinking it was not as good as his own steel bone mecha. One RUI had already gotten used to the transformation ability of the steel bone mecha, but the sword god mecha had completely removed the transformation ability. At first, one RUI was not used to it, and thought that the sword god mecha was not adaptable enough. Adaptability, with your extraordinary talent, why do you need adaptability? Xia Xingchen asked. If you have strong adaptability, if the situation is not good, you can find a way to escape. One RUI said hesitantly. Escape. Xia Xingchen laughed dumbly and said domineeringly, escape is an option, but it is definitely not the best option. You can make another choice, which is to use your own strength to crush all the obstacles in front of you. I also removed your Dragoon system. Your ability to control metal is not good at using the delicate operation of mental power clones. In other words, your use of the Dragoon system is simply a waste. Xia Xingchen explained. The sword god mecha uses the materials on the steel bone mecha, and I specially built 100 flying swords for you. You don't need to control these flying swords precisely. When fighting against the enemy, you only need to control them with mental power and throw them all at once. The damage is amazing. One RUI didn't believe it at first, but after actual operation, he found that the combat method Xia Xingchen said was extremely lethal. Each of these flying swords is comparable to a B-level mecha weapon. Throwing 100 swords at the same time is 100 times the damage. If one RUI has money in the future, he will replace all these B-level mecha weapons with A-level mecha weapons, then the destructive power will be even more terrifying. Of course, the money required for 100 A-class mecha weapons is an astronomical figure. One RUI, Xia Xingchen and other 30 mecha masters are the strongest first echelon, and they are basically in the third cube. The second echelon has 40 mecha masters, who are in the second cube, and the battle is very strenuous. There are also 10 mecha masters in the third echelon who struggled to break through the first cube, and just entered the second cube. I give up. An A-class mecha master voluntarily gave up. The difficulty of the second cube exceeded his imagination. As soon as he came into contact with the black beast, he knew that he was no match for it, and could only give up. Chapter 11:15. Continuous abstention. Alas, my mental power level is too low. After all, I'm only an A-class mecha master, which is far behind an S-class mecha master. This young A-class mecha master was the first to give up. When he left the Gold and Silver Star, he was interviewed by a female reporter from Galaxy TV and said so. But, Xia Xingchen is also an A-class mecha master, but he is in the first echelon. The female reporter asked with the microphone. This young mecha master, with a face darker than the bottom of a pot, waved his hands excitedly for a long time and said angrily, "I'm just a genius, but Xia Xingchen is a monster who surpasses genius. How can we judge him by common sense? Monster." The audience in front of the screen were all in an uproar. From then on, Xia Xingchen's name of monster became famous. After this young mecha master gave up, young geniuses began to give up one after another. I give up. I give up. This trial is not for humans at all. I thought I was a genius. But in the end, I'm ashamed of myself. Ashamed of myself. The young mecha masters who ranked low knew that they could not make it into the top 10. Instead of wasting time and embarrassing themselves in front of the humans in the Milky Way, it is better to give up as soon as possible and hold on to their face. Of course, in addition to face, the most important thing is to save your life. The difficulty of the dimensional cube trial is extremely terrifying. Each level increases 5 times, and the combat environment is completely different. The types of monsters derived from the black light are also different, with different skills. If you are not careful, your life will be in danger. The number of people dropped rapidly, from the original 81 to 40. The young geniuses fighting in the dimensional space saw that half of them gave up so quickly, and they gritted their teeth and persevered. 39, 38, 37. All the young geniuses in the third echelon gave up, and some mecha masters in the second echelon were exhausted, and chose to give up. The young geniuses gave up one by one, and when there were 30 people, the speed of giving up slowed down significantly. The remaining people were all masters with extremely strong combat effectiveness, and they were basically concentrated in the third cube. Only 5 people entered the fourth cube. Even Xia Xingchen was still fighting hard in the third cube. The audience's eyes moved away from Xia Xingchen and focused on the 5 people who entered the fourth cube. There was no way Xia Xingchen's mental power level was too low, and a protracted war would be very disadvantageous. Moreover, the 5 mecha masters who entered the fourth cube were indeed strong, not inferior to Xia Xingchen. Although Xia Xingchen's light was dazzling, it was not easy to cover up the dazzling brilliance of other geniuses. On the golden throne, the star pirate king Mecha sat upright, and the 3 servants, the evil dragon, the mad god, and the phoenix, stood by and watched. Yes, these young people are well-deserved geniuses. Roger praised. I like all of them. But I can only accept 10 as my apprentices. That kid named 1RUI is pretty good. He is actually a rare supernatural being who can control metal. His mecha is also powerful. It seems to be called the Sword God Mecha. It is the same as the Sword Fairy in the Chinese legend. The attack method is very beautiful. Even I'm a little envious. 1RUI is the heir of the One family in the Chaos Star domain. The crazy god whispered. One family? Are you talking about the old blacksmith one? Roger nodded. So he is the descendant of an old friend. Then I will accept him as my apprentice and cultivate him carefully. In the entire Chaos Star domain, the crazy god only found 11 pre-selected tree lists. The quality is more important than the number. All of them are masters. One RUI's talent is also one of the best among these 11. In addition, the sword god mecha carefully built by Xia Xingchen for one RUI has made him even more powerful and greatly increased his strength. Even Roger admired him very much and looked at him with a sidelong glance. That Xia Xingchen is actually quite good. The mad god whispered, but he is a little older and his talent is average. He is still an A-level mecha master. Moreover, he is in trouble. He has offended the Galactic Empire and several major star pirate overlords in the Chaos Star domain. I, Roger, have never been afraid of trouble. Roger smiled and said, when I was young, I also caused trouble everywhere. But you are right, Xia Xingchen is a little older, and his talent is not enough. I guess his achievements are limited. There is a female mecha master named Laura who also made it into the 4th cube, and is firmly in the top 5. She is a genius that I spent a lot of time to find. It's a pity that she is a girl. Phoenix said. Roger laughed. Don't worry. I'm not a person who favors boys over girls. No matter whether they are men or women, as long as they have talent and strength, I will treat them equally. Well, it is really not easy for a girl to enter the top 5. Among the top 5, there are one RUI, Laura, Webster, and a young genius named Wei Chang and Zhang Yan. Wei Chang and Zhang Yan kept a low profile during the first and second trials. But during the final trial, the two showed their true abilities and immediately became dazzling. They rode away from the dust, followed closely behind one RUI, and rushed to the front of the echelon. Zilong looked at Wei Chang and Zhang Yan, nodded slightly, and his eyes showed admiration. Because he had found these two people. Zilong, Feng Liang, and Kuang Shen had a private bet. Whoever found the most talented teenagers who became Roger's apprentices would be the winner. Although the bet was just a drink, it was related to their face, so they were very concerned. Many underground casinos on major planets in the Milky Way were also paying attention to this unprecedented event. The bets in the peripheral casinos were astonishing, even exceeding the long-standing football betting. Hey, Xia Xingchen doesn't look good. He was struggling in the 3rd cube. I still have to bet on one RUI to win. Sword God Mech. Wow, it's too powerful. Many gamblers were discussing that they could place bets before the dust settled. Xia Xingchen was originally a favorite. After all, he was so famous that almost everyone in the Milky Way knew him. It was just that Xia Xingchen's performance was not good, and one RUI suddenly emerged as a dark horse. Countless eyes were focused on one RUI at this moment. In the 4th cube, one RUI was driving the sword god Mech, with hundreds of flying swords flashing behind him. Wow. The sword god Mech did not move very fast, but with every step it took, there was a sword energy all around it. The whole Mech was like a peerless weapon, shining brightly. The fire element close to the sword god Mech were torn apart by the sword energy, and turned into embers. Powerful. Even one RUI himself was impressed by the powerful performance of the sword god Mech. However, one RUI's mental power is not endless. The continuous use of his supernatural powers to drive the flying sword finally exhausted his mental power. Chapter 11:16 Breakthrough again. One RUI was only 100 meters away from the black light gate at the center of the cube. Thousands of fire element blocked the way between the sword god Mech and the black light gate. The spiritual power planet in one RUI's mind was almost completely exhausted. Let's fight. Charge. One RUI's eyes showed a hint of madness, and he shouted loudly. Suddenly, all the remaining spiritual power in one RUI's mind was squeezed out and gathered on the sword god Mech. One sword to open the sky. The entire sword god Mech, at this moment, turned into a sword with a cold glow, and the sword energy around it was surging, rushing towards the black light gate in front of it without hesitation. Thousands of fire element were swept by the sword wind, and their bodies all fell apart and broke into countless pieces. Swish. The sword god Mech finally rushed into the black light gate. One RUI entered the 5th cube and found that there was darkness in front of him. The environment of the 5th level was absolutely dark, and light was useless. The Mech Master could only use mental power to detect and fight in the dark. In the darkness, hundreds of powerful auras came, which made one Rui's hair stand up, and his mecha suit was soaked with cold sweat. Give up. I give up. One Rui's heart was cold, and he shouted without any hesitation. Swish. One Rui's eyes lit up, and he was teleported to the outside of the dimensional cube. Although one Rui gave up on the 5th floor, he is still the holder of the highest score. Terrible. What kind of monster is lurking in the darkness? It feels so terrifying. One Rui did not regret his decision to give up. One Rui knew that his decision just now was very wise. If he was even a second later, he might lose his life. One Rui rushed to the 5th floor. Amazing. Xia Xingchen was still fighting hard with the forest python in the 3rd cube. In terms of ranking, Xia Xingchen would be ranked in the 20th, which was the last one. Now there must be a lot of people who look down on me. They think I'm nothing. Xia Xingchen had a faint smile on his face, looking very relaxed. If Xia Xingchen casts Thunder Breath, he can kill hundreds of jungle pythons at once, and then casts Traveling in the Sky. During the gap, when the jungle pythons are resurrected, he rushes into the black light at high speed and passes through the slayer directly. However, Xia Xingchen did not do this. Maybe others regard the dimensional cube as an exam, but Xia Xingchen is different. He regards the dimensional cube as a rare training. In peacetime, what mecha masters lack most is combat experience. Even if I have much more combat experience than others, I can't be compared with the real strong ones. Xia Xingchen thought very thoroughly. The dimensional cube should be the alien treasure that Roger found from the alien ruins. Everyone in the Kingstar Pirates is a master, and there are so many legendary mecha masters. There must be a reason. Maybe the dimensional cube is the answer. After all, Roger has a generous personality and doesn't have so many private thoughts. The dimensional cube can make up for the big problem of mecha masters' lack of combat experience. Moreover, Xia Xingchen felt that when he was fighting in the dimensional cube, his mental power level was also slowly increasing. Xia Xingchen was enjoying the battle. Meditation. Xia Xingchen had a feeling the way for humans to improve their mental power level is meditation. The orcs use the Sky High skill. In the final analysis, it's all about concentration. Fighting is also a good way to concentrate. The King Lang mecha held a silver spear with spiral patterns all over the gun body. With a light sweep, it cut a forest python in half from the middle. The mental power level has increased. Level 48. Xia Xingchen obviously felt that it was easier than the previous battle. His heart trembled, and he quickly concentrated on checking himself. Sure enough, he found that his mental power level had broken through again. Although it was only level 1. However, it was one step closer to the level 50 of the S-level Mecha Master. It's obviously impossible to increase it by one more level. In this case, you should show your real ability. In case of any accidents, if you don't make it into the top 10, it will be a big deal. Xia Xingchen glanced and found that there were still 20 Mecha Masters fighting in the dimensional cube, which was beyond his expectation. Thunder Roar. Xia Xingchen did not hesitate and immediately used the killer of the Azure Dragon Mech. A blue thunder beam swept across, turning the entire forest into nothingness. Swish. The Azure Dragon Mech flashed and rushed into the black light gate and entered the next cube. The next cube was the fire hell, full of lava and fire element. With his mouth open, black smoke came out of his throat, and he roared silently at Xia Xingchen. The essence of the Azure Dragon Mech is the Azure Dragon Divine Tree, which is restrained by fire. The fire hell is very unfavorable to Xia Xingchen. Wei Yu was driving a Hercules Mech and fighting in the fire hell. Can't I make it into the top 10? Wei Yu's eyes were full of unwillingness. The Hercules Mech was very powerful, but its speed was its weakness. Wei Yu had just killed a fire element, and before he could take 2 steps forward, the fire element turned into a ball of black light and resurrected on the spot. The more fire element he killed, the more there were. The Hercules Mech fell into the sea of fire. Forget it, I give up. With my current performance, I may be able to enter the top 10. Wei Yu's hair was singed by the high temperature. He could not hold on any longer and was in danger, so he had to give up. The ranking of the final trial results was based on the number of dimensional cubes that had been passed. If they were on the same level, it would depend on who could hold on longer on that level. Although when Yu gave up, if no one could hold on longer than him in the 4th level of the Hell of Fire, he could still enter the top 10. Where Yu finally stopped insisting. Whoosh. Both the man and the mecha were teleported out of the dimensional cube. I have tried my best. If I still cannot enter the top 10, there is nothing I can do about it. Where Yu laughed and was quite carefree. No, I can't hold on any longer. I can't enter the next level. Laura, the only female mecha master, who was driving a special mecha called Explorer, finally gave up and gave up. Laura looked very relaxed. With her performance, she was already firmly in the top 5, but she might not be able to enter the top 3. Whether she was in the top 3 or not, Laura didn't care. Laura was born into a family of explorers. The family has a rich heritage and owns many antique auction houses. It is not short of money. For Laura, being able to become Roger's apprentice is more to fulfill her father's wish. Laura's father is a well-known explorer in the universe. His biggest dream is to join the King of Star Pirates of Roger, the Star King, to explore alien ruins. Father, I have tried my best. Next, I can only leave everything to fate. After Laura gave up, she clenched her hands on her chest and looked up at the starry sky. After Laura gave up, the top 5 people, Webster and Wei Chang, could not hold on and chose to give up. As Xia Xingchen expected, the difficulty of the 4th dimension cube is already very high. Only one RUI can rush into the 5th dimension cube. Chapter 11:17, Strike Back. Inside the dimensional cube, the final trial has entered its climax. Among the top 5, including one RUI, 4 have given up, and their results are frozen. Only one person is still persisting. Zhang Yan. Everyone's eyes are now focused on Zhang Yan. Compared with other young geniuses, Zhang Yan can be said to be mature beyond his years. He has a square face, thick eyebrows and big eyes, and his lips are tightly pursed. His expression is like a rock, and he looks inconspicuous, like an inconspicuous stone. Zhang Yan is driving a khaki mecha, which is not big, only 7 meters. In front of most of the tall mechas over 10 meters, it is like a dwarf. There are no special weapons and equipment on the mecha, except for 2 huge khaki shields on the left and right wrists, which is obviously a defensive mecha. Defensive mechas are rare. They usually appear as strategic weapons in wars, which are commonly known as cannon fodder. Therefore, among senior mecha divisions, defensive mechas are even rarer. The Saturn mecha driven by Zhang Yan is an extremely rare defensive mecha. At this moment, Zhang Yan was driving the Saturn mech, moving step by step towards the black light gate. Along the way, countless flame element were like a sea of fire, attacking the Saturn mech frantically. The Saturn mech was covered with layers of stone armor. Even the crazy attacks of the flame element only shattered the armor and could not hurt the body of the Saturn mech. Zhang Yan did not launch any attack, but silently injured the attack with firm steps, and the distance from the black light gate was shortened little by little. What is this? He didn't kill any monsters. Is he going to enter the 5th cube like this? This is too unfair. Just relying on this big turtle shell, is this Zhang Yan going to enter the 5th cube and surpass one RUI to become the 1st? The audience talked about it, thinking that Zhang Yan's fighting method was too rogue and not gorgeous enough. This is a view of ordinary people. Beside Roger, the 3 legendary mech masters looked at Zhang Yan and couldn't help but exclaimed, "This guy is so strong. The defense of the mecha is amazing. It can even withstand the attack of the fire element in the 4th cube." The mad god widened his eyes. As solid as a rock, deep in the city. This Zhang Yan is a promising talent. The evil dragon's eyes flickered and nodded slightly. I was wrong. I found this Zhang Yan and never paid attention to him. I didn't expect that his strength was so terrifying. It seems that he will win the 1st place. The corners of Phoenix's mouth turned up and a smile appeared on her charming face. If Zhang Yan got the 1st place, she would win this bet. Whether it is an individual or a race. If you want to evolve, the most important thing is to survive. As long as you can survive, everything is hopeful. Roger said in a deep voice. Zhang Yan's mecha focuses on defense. It seems to be a rogue, but it is actually in line with the laws of the universe. The final trial tests the ability to survive. Bang. While everyone was talking, Zhang Yan drove the Saturn mecha and finally walked to the black light gate, crossed it, and entered the 5th cube dark space. It was pitch black here. Not only could the audience not see what was happening in this space, but even Zhang Yan himself could not see it. The surroundings were dark, completely swallowing up the light. First, I want to take first place. Zhang Yan was a taciturn person, but his desire to win was stronger than that of other young geniuses. Although he knew that he had already secured a place in the top 3, Zhang Yan still wanted to persevere and surpass the record that one RUI had just set. The final defense form, Rock. Zhang Yan felt hundreds of terrifying auras coming from the darkness around him and immediately shouted loudly. The entire Saturn mech shrank into a ball like a hedgehog and was covered with a thick layer of rock armor all over the body. Boom boom boom. A series of dull attack sounds came from the space. The rock armor outside the Saturn mech was instantly shattered. Give up. I give up. Zhang Yan found that the Saturn mech with amazing defense power could not withstand the terrorist attack from the darkness and shouted hurriedly. Swish. Zhang Yan was teleported outside the dimensional cube. The Saturn mech was destroyed and he was seriously injured and dying. Zhang Yan was immediately sent to the emergency room for rescue. The news came that his life was not in danger. Zhang Yan surpassed one RUI at the cost of his life and set a new record. Most of the trial participants gave up the trial and came out of the dimensional cube with their scores frozen. Only a few people were still persisting. Just when everyone thought that the dust had settled, Xia Xingchen began to exert his strength quietly. The 4th cube, the Hell of Fire. Xia Xingchen drove the Qinglang mecha, and 6 silver white spiral drills floated above his head. Inside each spiral drill, there was a spiritual clone of Xia Xingchen. Therefore, this spiral drill was extremely dexterous and could be used at will. Xia Xingchen pointed at a flame element that was blocking the way. Swish. 4 silver drills flew out in a spiral, piercing blood holes in the flame element. The flame element howled in pain and turned into a ball of ashes. The remaining 2 silver drills floated above the Qinglang mecha, guarding against sneak attacks from the flame element. In the blink of an eye, the flame element in front of Xia Xingchen was swept away, revealing a path leading to the black light gate. The Azure Dragon mecha was extremely fast. With a flap of its wings, it could cover several kilometers in an instant. Xia Xingchen quickly approached the black light gate. Wow. What's going on? Why did Xia Xingchen suddenly become so powerful? Is Xia Xingchen hiding his strength? Hiding his power in such a difficult final trial is too exaggerated. The humans watching on the screens of various planets were all amazed at this scene. Just now, many talented mecha masters were trapped in the flame hell, unable to move forward, and could only persevere. But Xia Xingchen looked very relaxed, and he could cover several kilometers with one move. As expected of the Evildoer Xia Xingchen. His strength is truly terrifying. Otherwise, he would not have been able to rescue Princess Crossing on Cheyenne Star. I thought the Imperial military was full of idiots. I didn't expect. It turned out that Xia Xingchen was too terrifying. A miner, with ordinary talent. How could he get to where he is now? I can't figure it out. I really can't figure it out. Xia Xingchen's entry into the top 10 seems to be a sure thing. But to enter the top 3, it's still a bit difficult. Countless spectators were discussing Thunder Breath. After performing Thunder Breath, the Azure Dragon mech took advantage of this gap and flashed into the black light gate. Like one RUI and Zhang Yan, it also entered the 5th cube, the dark space. The top 3 are guaranteed. Chapter 11-18. Standing out from the crowd. Top 3. Xia Xingchen is in the top 3. The audience in front of the screen did not expect that Xia Xingchen could strike back and break into the top 3 from outside the top 20. Even if Xia Xingchen announced that he would give up, he could still tie for 2nd place with 1 RUI. Or, Xia Xingchen, like Zhang Yan, risked his life to bet on the 1st place. Give up. Anyway, you are in the top 3. There is no difference between 1st and 3rd. Xingchen, give up. It's enough. Brother Xingchen, I also advise you to give up. Beta Star, Dawn Fortress, Kinjana, Edward and others were all holding their breath in front of the big screen, not daring to breathe, watching Xia Xingchen's figure on the big screen. No one was worried about the first few cubes because they all believed in Xia Xingchen's strength. However, after Xia Xingchen entered the dark space of the 5th cube, everyone's heart was in their throat, and they were sweating for Xia Xingchen. Only one Rui and Zhang Yang could break into the 5th cube. Both of them are S-level mecha masters. One Rui's mental power level is just over 50, while Zhang Yan is at the peak of S level. Neither of them could last for more than 30 seconds in the dark space. Can Xia Xingchen, an A-level mecha master, do it? Countless people are looking forward to it. Xia Xingchen's enemies are hoping that Xia Xingchen will die in this dark space because of his arrogance. Haha, Xia Xingchen. I knew he could do it. The god of madness laughed. I have 2 of the top 3. It seems that I will definitely win. Don't be too happy too early. It's not over yet. But this result is beyond my expectations. Phoenix blinked, looking surprised. Boy, you really didn't let me down. The evil dragon showed a rare smile on his face. Well, mental power level 48. Just now I broke through a level in the battle. I was able to enter the top 3. I didn't expect that I would be wrong one day. Even Roger was surprised. In the dark space, Xia Xingchen could have given up immediately. But Xia Xingchen didn't do so. Others regard the trial of the dimensional cube as an exam. Xia Xingchen, however, regards the trial of the dimensional cube as a rare training. He doesn't want to waste this excellent opportunity. He is enjoying the pleasure brought by the battle. Try your best. Squeeze out all your potential. I want to see how many cubes I can rush to. Xia Xingchen clenched his hands tightly, and a hint of fanaticism flashed across his face. Xia Xingchen knew very well that he was completely different from the young geniuses who came to participate in the trial. The young geniuses were very talented and had strong mental power. They had been practicing mental power since birth. However, they were all flowers in a greenhouse. Even one Rui. The reason why he wanted to become Roger's apprentice was just for the honor of the family. For the honor of the family, for the expectations of his parents, and to stand out. The things these young geniuses carried on their shoulders were understandable and worthy of praise for their age. However, in the eyes of Xia Xingchen, who had experienced too much, they seemed too immature. Xia Xingchen carries the fate of the empire, the future of mankind, and the lives and deaths of hundreds of millions of people. Although they are all of the same age, Xia Xingchen's thoughts are much more mature, and he has never limited himself to the level of these peers. Xia Xingchen is stronger than them, both in strength and in his heart. Swish. In the dark space, Xia Xingchen's consciousness spreads 1,000 meters, and his eyes are as bright as day. The darkness in the dark space has a suppressive effect on mental power. However, for Xia Xingchen, who has experienced the spore black fog underground on the Demon Star, these inexplicable darkness are nothing. It turns out to be bats. Xia Xingchen's consciousness explored and found that there were countless huge bats flying around his body. These bats are huge, 20 meters long, and use ultrasonic waves to attack at a long distance with amazing destructive power. Boom boom boom. Countless ultrasonic waves bombarded the Qinglang mecha. The energy contained in the ultrasonic wave is extremely amazing. Even the Saturn mecha, which focuses on defense, cannot withstand an attack. However, a smile appeared at the corner of Xia Xingchen's mouth. Swish. The figure of the Azure Dragon Mech disappeared from the spot, making a loud bang, and its speed instantly broke through the sound barrier. The ultrasonic attacks of the dark bats were all in vain. The dark bats had sharp hearing and immediately located the position of the Azure Dragon Mech. They launched an attack again, but were still easily dodged by the Azure Dragon Mech. Ultrasonic waves are mechanical waves, which travel 340 meters per second in the air. Even if my Azure Dragon Mech does not use the wandering sky, it can instantly break through the sound barrier and exceed the speed of sound. These ultrasonic attacks are like huge shells flying slowly in the air. Although they have amazing destructive power, as long as I'm not stupid enough to crash into them, they will never be able to attack me. Xia Xingchen looked relaxed, and the sky wings behind the Azure Dragon Mech flapped, instantly passing over those silly dark bats, passing through the black light gate, and entering the next cube. The 5th cube dark space, which seemed insurmountable to others, was as simple as it could be in Xia Xingchen's eyes. It was much simpler than the previous layer of the Hell of Fire, and it was simply given away for free. This result can only be said to be a coincidence. One RUI had a chance to pass through the 5th cube, but he consumed too much mental energy in the 4th cube, and he gave up as soon as he entered the 5th cube. Later, Zhang Yan drove another defensive mecha, which was very slow. The biggest disadvantage of the Dark Bat is that the ultrasonic attack it launched is too slow. Normal mechas cannot be hit by this attack. However, the Saturn mecha is not a normal mecha. The 5th cube was dark again, and no one knew what happened inside. In less than 3 minutes, the figure of the King Lang mecha appeared in the next cube. What? How is it possible? Countless viewers were stunned to see Xia Xingchen pass through the 5th cube so quickly. In the 6th cube, after Xia Xingchen entered, he saw a starry sky beast as big as a mountain. It was a kilometer long, and the fangs in its mouth were larger than those of the King Lang mecha. It was floating in space and sleeping with its eyes closed. Hiss. Feeling the terrifying breath coming from the starry sky beast, Xia Xingchen couldn't help but take a breath. Xia Xingchen couldn't describe the shock in his heart except for the word horror. As if sensing something, the star beast opened its eyes, and a scholar eye stared at Xia Xingchen like a small planet. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 11-19, Become a Disciple. The strongest person in the human race. Give up. Xia Xingchen made a prompt decision and chose to give up immediately. There was no other way. Xia Xingchen was very clear about his own strength and knew that the gap between him and the star beast was too big. There was no need to fight at all, and he would definitely not win even if he fought. I'm still too weak. Xia Xingchen sighed. I was exhausted after only hitting the 6th cube. Roger was able to hit the 36th cube, which really deserves to be the strongest man in the world. However, this dimensional cube has a total of 64 cubes. Who can hit the last layer? Swish. Xia Xingchen's figure has appeared outside the dimensional cube. Among the 99 and 81 participants in the final trial, Xia Xingchen was the one who persisted to the end, and also the one who passed the most layers. Moreover, Xia Xingchen passed one more cube than other trial participants. The final trial ends here. The top 3 are Xia Xingchen, Zhang Yan, and one RUI. These 3 have the right to be selected into the King Star Pirates. The other 7 people, Laura, Webster, Wei Chang, Phoenix, stood in front of everyone and announced the final result. Wei Yu ranked 12th, not making the top 10 by 2 places. Xia Xingchen is number 1. Xia Xingchen has successfully become the disciple of Roger, the strongest man in the human race. Awesome. Really awesome. With Roger and the King of Star Pirates protecting him, even the Regent King Kinyan can't touch him. The entire Milky Way was boiling at this moment. Xia Xingchen's friends were also excited, holding wine glasses in their hands to congratulate Xia Xingchen. Thank you all for visiting Gold and Silver Star. So far, I have accepted 10 apprentices. Gold and Silver Star is closed from now on, and no visitors are welcome. Roger drove the Star Pirate King mecha, stood up, and waved his hand. Whoosh. The wind was howling, and in a blink of an eye, the sky above the entire Gold and Silver Star was covered with a thick layer of dark clouds. Lightning and thunder were flashing in the clouds, and thunder dragons were swimming. Even the most advanced detectors could not detect the situation of Gold and Silver Star through the clouds. The King aircraft carrier passed through the clouds and sent the failed young talents, along with their mechas, to the outer space of the Gold and Silver Star. The Gold and Silver Star was completely sealed off. Congratulations. You are able to become the Master's apprentice and receive his personal guidance. Even we servants are not qualified. The Mad God walked towards the 10 young people who passed the trial with a smile on his face. Including Xia Xingchen, the hearts of the 10 young people were full of huge waves. Star Pirate King Roger, the most recognized human in the Milky Way. Among the trillions of human beings in the Milky Way, Roger is the only one who can stand in the first position without dispute for thousands of years. Even the Guardian of the Empire, the Angel of Light Michael, has publicly admitted that he is not Roger's opponent. Roger has already reached the point of being truly invincible. Moreover, it is said that Roger is still a powerless person. He does not have any supernatural powers, but only relies on pure strength to reach the point of being a peerless powerhouse. Accepting apprentices? Except for this time, Roger has never accepted apprentices. All the pirates of the King Star Pirates have been instructed by him to practice to a certain extent. Whether they are still in the King Star Pirates, or have left the King Star Pirates, they are all strong now. There are no fewer legendary mecha masters. Finally did it. Xia Xingchen felt that the blood in his body was boiling. As calm as he was, he couldn't help but get excited at this moment. Master. This is Xia Xingchen's first real master. Xia Xingchen had many teachers before, and he respected his teacher very much. However, teachers are different from masters. There can be many teachers, but there can only be one master. To be honest, Xia Xingchen's spiritual power practice has been bumpy all the way, and he has no master to guide him. The main reason why he can reach this level now is because of his hard work. Now, Xia Xingchen finally has a master. The master is also the strongest man in the world. If Roger can't guide Xia Xingchen to practice, then no one in the entire galaxy can guide him. Let's go. Follow me to see the master. The god of madness waved his hand and said with a smile, the master is free and easy by nature. However, he still has to be polite. After all, he is your master. Yes. Everyone nodded, and they were all excited to see Roger in person. Xia Xingchen and the other 10 lucky people followed the god of madness and walked towards the highest hall of the Gold and Silver Star. The steps of this hall are very high. Everyone walked slowly and walked into the hall. But, entering the hall, Xia Xingchen suddenly felt a buzzing sound, and his eyes went black. A strong sense of discomfort surged from his heart, but it disappeared in an instant, and his eyes became bright. One RUI. Did you feel it? Xia Xingchen asked One RUI quietly. Brother, what did you say? One RUI looked excited, and it was clear that he didn't feel anything unusual. Forget it. Xia Xingchen shook his head. Maybe it was my illusion. Sitting at the highest point of the palace was a tall man wearing a dark golden robe and tall. With him as the center, terrifying power fluctuations were transmitted. Roger, the Star Pirate King. Xia Xingchen and 10 other people knelt down immediately. Disciples, we pay our respects to our master. Roger is very mysterious. In the Milky Way, countless people dream of meeting Roger, but they cannot. Being able to become Roger's disciple is something that countless people dream of, but only these 10 people have the strength and luck. Hahaha, yes, I, Roger, finally have a disciple. Roger laughed loudly. His laughter was as loud as thunder. You are all tired after participating in the final trial. Today is just a greeting gift. You can go down and rest for the time being. I will naturally summon you in a few days. As for other matters, you can ask Phoenix, Mad God, and Evil Dragon. The 10 people kowtowed and followed Mad God out of the palace. Xia Xingchen walked at the back. The other 9 people all walked out of the palace. He suddenly turned his head and looked at the lofty being on the throne. He bowed deeply and said loudly, Master, I have something I don't understand. I dare to ask, can you help me solve my doubts? Are you Xia Xingchen, the first place? Sure. I'll treat it as a reward for you. However, you can only ask one question. Roger's posture did not change. He looked down at Xia Xingchen, his face blurred. Master, we have gone through countless hardships and passed 3 trials. We are all sincere and want to worship you as our master. Why, when performing the master-disciple ceremony, you can't show your true face to others? Xia Xingchen's voice was neither humble nor arrogant. Don't show your true face to others? Roger's huge body shook, his face full of disbelief. What do you mean? Explain it more clearly. Roger's eyes showed expectations. I mean, this is not the real world, but a virtual space. Xia Xingchen looked around and said in a deep voice. Chapter 11:20 Roger's situation. What did you say? You said this is not the real world. Can you? Do you have any evidence? Roger couldn't believe his ears. Everything here looks very real. However, I can feel a sense of disharmony. In Xia Xingchen's mind, the crystal pyramid flickered slightly. Swish. Xia Xingchen condensed a long sword in his hand and directly drew the sword to cut his own throat, cutting the artery in his neck. However, no blood flowed out. Swish. Xia Xingchen's eyes went dark, and when they were bright again, he found himself lying on a bed, wearing a helmet with wires on his head. The evil dragon and the phoenix stood beside him, staring at him with strange faces. You actually figured it out. I didn't expect. The evil dragon was shocked and sighed. There are really people who can see that it is a virtual space for the first time and have the courage to commit suicide. Phoenix's pretty face was full of surprise, and her slender jade hand covered her red lips. Even us, it took a long time, and we met the master hundreds of times before we accidentally discovered some clues. The crazy god also walked in and exclaimed, "Three seniors. What is going on? Is the master not on the gold and silver star?" Xia Xingchen sat up and looked at the three legendary mecha masters of the crazy god. Crazy god, bring Xia Xingchen to see me. A thunderous voice sounded in the mind of the crazy god. Yes, master. The crazy god nodded, took off the helmet on Xia Xingchen's head, and said, "Let's go. The master wants to see you. Don't worry, this time I will see the real body. You will understand your master's difficulties when you see him." Xia Xingchen jumped off the bed, followed behind the crazy god, walked through a long tunnel, and entered the underground of the gold and silver star. Thousands of meters underground, Xia Xingchen walked into a tomb. On a stone platform, Xia Xingchen saw an open sarcophagus, in which lay a tall man. His face and clothes were exactly the same as those of Roger, the Star Pirate King, except that his head was slightly larger, and his limbs were atrophied and thinner. Xia Xingchen, kneel down quickly, the crazy god reminded. Master. Xia Xingchen was bewildered. He could not imagine that the man lying in the sarcophagus, who looked lifeless, was the strongest man in the human race, the Star Pirate King Roger. Master, what happened to him? Xia Xingchen knew that he had uncovered a big secret and asked in a trembling voice. Disciple. The wall of the tomb suddenly shone and became as smooth as a mirror, revealing Roger's face. Roger's face no longer had the domineering and carefree smile before, but a sad face and a face full of worry. Master. Xia Xingchen knelt down hurriedly. Kuangshan, you go out and appease the other 9 people. Just say that I met Xia Xingchen alone and asked him to help repair the Pirate King's mecha. Don't let them know my real situation. Alas. I didn't expect that, Xia Xingchen. Your perception is so sharp. Just a quick meeting, you know that it is a virtual space. Roger sighed, his expression lonely. I'm the Pirate King. I advocate freedom the most in my life. I'm unrestrained and can gallop freely in the universe. I didn't expect that there would be a day when I would lose my freedom and be sent to this hellhole. Since you have seen through it, you have the right to know everything. However, you can't tell others. Otherwise, there will be a chaos and all lives will be destroyed. Roger is not exaggerating. His identity is too special. Michael is the patron saint of the Empire, and Roger can be called the patron saint of mankind. If the news of Roger's entrapment spreads, there will be a big storm in the entire galaxy. As you can see, I'm now trapped in a special space, a pure spiritual being. Only in the virtual space can you see my fake body. In the real world, I can only manipulate the Star Pirate King mecha to intimidate everyone, and there is a range limit, which cannot exceed the gold and silver star region. In other words, I'm now a ghost living in the virtual world. A pitiful person who has lost his freedom and is trapped. Roger said. Master, with your power, is there no way to get out? Xia Xingchen thought for a while and said. Alas, success and failure are all due to Xiohe. Roger sighed. When I was young, I was just an ordinary space pirate, wandering around in the sea of stars. Inadvertently, I came to Treasure Island and discovered the Dimension Cube. I'm a person of strong character and never admit defeat. I challenged the Dimension Cube again and again and became stronger and stronger in actual combat. I established the King Space Pirates group, explored the universe recklessly, drank and reveled with my brothers all day long, and did not care about kings and generals. Finally one day, I became the strongest man in the world. I can have such a brilliant achievement, all thanks to the Dimension Cube. However, becoming stronger is the fate of the strong. I'm not satisfied with my own strength, and continue to challenge the Dimension Cube. Finally, after passing the 36th floor, I was trapped in the cube. It has been nearly 50 years now. Roger said. 50 years. Half a century. Xia Xingchen calculated in his mind that the space pirate king Roger suddenly disappeared, which happened 50 years ago. Roger has been trapped in the dimensional cube for 50 years. If there was a way to get out, he would have gotten out long ago. Roger is a man who advocates freedom. Freedom is more important to Roger than life. 50 years. I'm still trapped in the dimensional cube. I'm now discouraged. That's why I want to accept disciples and pass on all my life's learning and insights to you. However, I may not have much time left. How much you can learn and understand depends on your own ability. Roger sighed. Master, you can't get out by yourself. Can't the people outside save you? For example, destroy the dimensional cube. Xia Xingchen suggested. Destroy the dimension cube. Roger laughed dumbly. You have no idea what the dimension cube is and how powerful it is. Forget it. Ignorance is no crime. The more I explore, the more shocked I'm by the horror of the dimension cube. It contains all the mysteries of the universe. Even the legendary celestial being may not be the creator of the dimension cube. The owner of the dimension cube should be a stronger being than the celestial being, possessing higher technology. He can even travel to high-dimensional life forms outside the universe. Forget it. It's useless to talk so far. In fact, there is a way to save me. What way? Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up and asked. Dimensional cube. Each time you defeat a layer, you gain control of another layer. The reason why your final trial was safe and sound is because I can control the first 36 layers of the dimensional cube. If there is someone who is stronger than me and can successfully pass the 36th layer, then you can release me. On the wall, Roger shook his head. What a pity. I'm the strongest man. 50 years have passed and no one is stronger than me. The brothers of the King Star Pirates wanted to save me, but all failed and lost their lives in vain. Chapter 11:21, The Siege of Beta Star. It is said that there are many mecha masters in the King Star Pirates. Even they can't do it? Xia Xingchen was shocked. But on second thought, this is normal. Even the Star Pirate King Roger can't escape from the dimensional cube. Others can't help. Master, maybe we can help you. Xia Xingchen hesitated for a while and finally said it. Xia Xingchen didn't want to show his loyalty to Roger. He just felt that Roger, who had lost his freedom, was very pitiful. It was indeed a very sad thing that the great star pirate who once dominated the stars and roamed the starry sea had lost his freedom. You. Roger smiled bitterly and shook his head slowly. It's not that I look down on you. You are all geniuses with unlimited potential, all very young, and have an infinitely bright future. Since I accept you as my disciples, you will definitely surpass me and achieve greater strength than me. Otherwise, wouldn't it make me, the master, seem useless? Especially you, Xia Xingchen. You rank first among the 10 people, and you can see the virtual space at a glance. You have a good vision. Your future is limitless. But, there is no time. You are too young, too immature. Roger's words were facts, and Xia Xingchen could not refute them. In short, I'm very pleased that you have this intention. Go back. Go back and practice hard. The future of mankind depends on you. Roger waved his hand and said, I'm in the dimensional cube and occasionally travel through the long river of time in the form of a spiritual body. In the near future, mankind will face a great disaster. A savior will also be born. However, I can't see the face of the savior clearly. I hope that, when the disaster comes, you can assist this savior and save mankind from danger. Follow the master's teachings. Xia Xingchen saluted respectfully, followed behind the crazy god, walked out of the underground tomb, and returned to his residence. Xia Xingchen had just walked to the door when one Rui hurried over. Brother, where have you been? We all came out of the palace, but you disappeared. Master knows that I'm a mecha repairman, so he asked me to help repair the mecha. Xia Xingchen said with a smile. Helping the master repair the mecha. The master must appreciate you very much. That's great. One Rui looked envious. Ah. Xia Xingchen sighed softly, looking at One Rui's innocent smile. He suddenly felt that ignorance was also a kind of happiness. On the gold and silver star, only Roger, Mad God, Evil Dragon, Phoenix, and Xia Xingchen, the 10 disciples of the Star Pirate King, were left on the entire planet. The entire gold and silver star was paved with gold bricks and walls of white jade, with pavilions, towers, and palaces everywhere. The 10 people could choose their own residence on the planet. Phoenix was responsible for the daily life of the 10 people. Mad God was responsible for the ancient martial arts practice and spiritual power practice of the 10 people. Evil Dragon was responsible for the mecha operation of the 10 people, as well as the specific use of superpowers in mecha combat. Roger would occasionally gather the 10 people together to point out the maze. This was the first time Roger was someone else's teacher. However, his path of cultivation was walked out step by himself, and he had a deep understanding. Therefore, when the 10 disciples raised questions about their cultivation, Roger could hit the nail on the head. The King's space aircraft carrier would land on the gold and silver star every once in a while, bringing all kinds of supplies. Xia Xingchen and his crew could also write down what supplies they needed on a list and ask the king to bring them back on the return trip. Cultivation life is simple and fulfilling, but very boring. Except for Xia Xingchen, everyone else's lists were filled with all kinds of food and entertainment facilities. Xia Xingchen's list included nuclear fuel rods, mecha parts, ammunition, fresh water, and high-calorie food, which are necessities of war. Moreover, the things Xia Xingchen wanted were in large quantities, enough to equip a small army. Marley, the third officer in charge of supplies management on the King's space carrier, looked at Xia Xingchen's list with a strange look on his face. However, since Xia Xingchen is now also a member of the King Star Pirates and Roger's apprentice, Marley didn't say much. After all, what Xia Xingchen wanted was not expensive. At least not as expensive as the entertainment facilities that others wanted. After the king delivered the necessities of war, Xia Xingchen used the space-time beacon to transmit all these supplies back to Beta Star. Blackbird and other 4 pirate overlords were waiting outside the gold and silver star, preparing to kill Xia Xingchen when he failed the exam and left the gold and silver star. However, Xia Xingchen won the first place in the trial without any danger and became Roger's apprentice. Blackbird knew that it was futile to wait outside the gold and silver star, so he returned to the periphery of Beta Star with several pirate overlords, preparing to try to capture Beta Star and capture the Star Princess Kinjana. It was precisely because of this that the pressure on Beta Star increased sharply. Although there was the existence of the Dawn Fortress, Blackbird did not dare to attack rashly and was still waiting for the arrival of the Galactic Empire Starship Army. However, the war materials on Beta Star were consumed quickly, and people's hearts began to fluctuate. Kinjana was very good at gathering people's hearts, and made several public speeches to temporarily calm the restless hearts. However, this was also a temporary solution. Fortunately, the war materials prepared by Xia Xingchen were transmitted to Beta Star, which solved the urgent problem. Xia Xingchen knew that the situation on Beta Star was not optimistic, and his heart could not help but be impetuous. We must practice as soon as possible. Get stronger in a short time. Break the siege of Beta Star. Xia Xingchen clenched his hands tightly, his eyes determined. Master, I want to get stronger. Xia Xingchen went to find Roger alone and knelt in front of him. Xia Xingchen, you are the first one again. Roger smiled. You are willing to come to me on your own initiative. There must be a reason why you must get stronger. Wanting to get stronger on your own initiative and being forced to get stronger by me are 2 different states. Xia Xingchen was silent, clenched his hands, his eyes full of fighting spirit. Your biggest problem now is that your mental power level is too low, only level 48. Although the mental power fluctuations are very strong, the level is too low, which holds you back. Roger hit the nail on the head. Master, is there any quick way to achieve success? Xia Xingchen asked. Practicing spiritual power is a slow process. What matters is perseverance. A drop of water will wear away a stone. You can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. Practicing takes too much time. Roger said. However, the dimensional cube is very beneficial to spiritual power practice. It's just that with your current strength, it's too dangerous to enter the dimensional cube. Then, Master, I have something very important to do. I must leave the gold and silver star temporarily. Xia Xingchen immediately felt impatient when he thought of Princess Crossing still waiting on Beta Star. Roger's face, which was originally smiling, suddenly darkened, and he snorted coldly, Xia Xingchen. What do you think the gold and silver star is? Come and go as you please? No matter what your business is, even if you go back to attend a funeral, postpone it. You will not be qualified to leave the gold and silver star until you comprehend the domain. Domain. Xia Xingchen was stunned. Domain is the label of a legendary mecha master. Only when the spiritual power reaches level 60 can you comprehend the domain. Chapter 11:22 Monthly Assessment. That's right, it's just possible to comprehend the domain, but not necessarily master it. Even among legendary mecha masters, not all of them can master the domain. For example, the Mad God, he didn't master the domain. The reason why he is so strong is just pure strength. Whether or not to master the domain, and whether the domain is strong or not, is the standard to measure the strength of a legendary mecha master. Master, my mental power level is too low. I have to reach level 60 before I can master the domain. How long will it take? Xia Xingchen was anxious. I really don't have time. Shut up. Roger was furious. As long as you are alive, you have time. Xia Xingchen, you disappoint me. Roger waved his hand, and Xia Xingchen returned to reality from the virtual space, standing alone in the hall. I made Master angry. Xia Xingchen smiled bitterly. Only then did he react that Roger's identity was the Star Pirate King who dominated the galaxy, known for his domineering and strictness, and would not tolerate any doubts from others. For a period of time afterwards, Roger did not call Xia Xingchen several times when he summoned his disciples and instructed them to practice. Did Xia Xingchen offend the master because of something? I think so. Xia Xingchen was born into a mining family and doesn't know etiquette. It's possible that he offended the master with his words. Hehe, let him be arrogant. It's just the first place in the trial. We have won the master's favor. It will be easy to surpass him. The 9 disciples were all discussing Xia Xingchen's affairs. Most of them were gloating over Xia Xingchen's misfortune. Only one RUI remained silent. Xia Xingchen also felt the master's neglect. After a month, he slowly calmed down. Roger's reprimand was very straightforward, but it made sense. The situation on Beta Star is not optimistic. With Xia Xingchen's current strength, what can he change? Nothing can be changed. Even if Xia Xingchen rushed back to Beta Star, he couldn't even break through the defense circle of the Star Pirate Overlords. The most urgent task now is to practice, as soon as possible, raise the spiritual power level to level 50, and become an S-level mecha master. By then, even if I don't master the domain, I will ask the master again. I hope he can give me a break. Xia Xingchen made plans silently in his heart. One day, the god of madness came to find Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen, let's go. After a month of practice, it's time to test the results. You have a chance to enter the dimensional cube. Cherish it. Since Xia Xingchen contradicted Roger last time, the god of madness's attitude towards Xia Xingchen has become a little cold. Yes, sir. Xia Xingchen followed the god of madness and came to the square where the previous trial was held. 10 cubes were suspended in the air. 9 of the cubes already had other people fighting inside. 1 was empty. Swish. Xia Xingchen drove the Azure Dragon Mecha and entered the dimensional cube again. Virtual space. Roger sat on the huge golden throne, watching the battles in the 10 cubes in front of him, with admiration in his eyes. Mad God, Phoenix, an evil dragon stood beside Roger, serving him respectfully. One RUI has passed the 5th level of the dark space. Mad God exclaimed. It's only been a month, and he has grown so fast. Hahaha, of course it's my guidance. One RUI is a piece of unpolished jade, and after being carved, it immediately shines. Roger stroked his white beard on his chin and laughed heartily. The strength of the other few people also improved by leaps and bounds, and basically they were able to pass the 4th level of the flame hell and enter the dark space. The dark space is a free layer for most people. After discovering its mystery, they passed it smoothly. Only Zhang Yan, who was driving the Saturn Mecha, was too slow and was bombarded by the ultrasonic cannon of the Dark Bat and was stuck in the dark space layer. Hey, why is Xia Xingchen on the 4th level? It's been so long, and he still can't get through? Phoenix suddenly asked in surprise. In the final trial, Xia Xingchen passed the 4th level of the flame hell smoothly. This time, Xia Xingchen has been in the hell of fire, driving the Qinglang mecha to fight with the fire element. After a month of training, the strength of others has improved a lot. Could it be that Xia Xingchen's strength has not improved but declined? Strange. Zilong also frowned. He couldn't understand it either. Humph, brat. Roger snorted coldly, but a relieved smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Xia Xingchen did it on purpose. He knows that his mental power level is too low, and even if he reaches the 6th level of the Star Beast, he can't pass it. It's better to stay on the 4th level and hone his mental power through fighting. I see. Kuangshan, Feng Liang, and Zilong all realized it. When other disciples heard about this monthly test, they all rushed to rush forward and try to improve their rankings to win Roger's favor. Only Xia Xingchen was different. He regarded entering the dimensional cube as a rare opportunity. Even during the test, he did not forget to hone himself. This kind of tireless enterprising spirit is what Roger wants to see. But, with Xia Xingchen's current strength, it will take a long time for him to be exhausted and give up. After training in the hell of fire, one RUI here is about to be defeated by the Star Beast. We can't just wait for him. Phoenix frowned and said, yeah. Roger drooped his eyelids, thought for a while, and suddenly moved his fingers. The time in the dimensional cube where Xia Xingchen was located suddenly accelerated, as if he had pressed the fast forward button of a player, and the movement was 10 times faster than before. Master, you accelerated the flow of time in Xia Xingchen's dimensional cube. Phoenix said in shock. Yeah. Roger responded lightly. The flow of time in the dimensional cube where Xia Xingchen was located became faster than outside. 10 seconds inside was only 1 second outside. Master, you can't do it. You will greatly overdraw your vitality by manipulating time like this. The mad god was panicked and immediately knelt down and begged. Roger paid a great price for manipulating the flow of time in the dimensional cube. I know. Roger's expression was very calm. Xia Xingchen, this kid. I can help a little, so I will help a little. The 3 legendary mecha masters were very surprised. Only then did they realize that Roger ignored Xia Xingchen on the surface. In fact, he was still very concerned about Xia Xingchen. Roger would rather overdraw his own vitality to help Xia Xingchen, so that he could have more time to practice in the dimensional cube. Roger was a typical person with a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. What's going on? I have been fighting on the 4th floor for so long, and one RUI and his team haven't lost on the 6th floor yet? Xia Xingchen didn't know that the time flow rate in his dimensional cube was 10 times that of others. He drove the Qinglang mecha to fight in the flame space until he was exhausted and was shocked to find that no one had given up yet. 1 month. They actually left me behind by a large distance and became so powerful. But I'm still standing still. Xia Xingchen was not discouraged, but instead had a spirit of not admitting defeat in his heart. Although the spiritual power planet in his mind had been exhausted, he still gritted his teeth and persisted. Chapter 11:23 Colossus Space. In the dimensional cube, time flows at 10 times the speed. Xia Xingchen struggled to hold on in the 4th layer of the hell of fire, but in the end, his mental strength was exhausted, and he had to give up. Swish. Xia Xingchen left the dimensional cube and returned to the real world. After a while, the other disciples also gave up the trial, left the dimensional cube, and appeared in front of Xia Xingchen. One RUI had the best result, but he still failed to break through the 6th layer, and was defeated by the giant claws of the starry sky beast. What a pity, just a little bit short. The crazy god looked regretful. One RUI is young after all, and he actually has a chance to win. However, there is still next time. The evil dragon also nodded slightly. Not bad. Everyone's strength has improved. Work hard to practice after returning. You will have a chance to enter the dimensional cube once a month. Roger laughed, stroking his beard, and was very satisfied with the performance of his 10 disciples. All improved. Not necessarily. Xia Xingchen didn't even make it to the 4th level, and he was the first to give up. His strength has not improved, but regressed. Isn't this a slap in the face of Master? Who knows? Looking at Xia Xingchen's current performance, he is just so-so. He performed very well in the final trial. I'm afraid he took some banned drugs. A journey of 1,000 miles tells a horse's strength. Master has a sharp eye, and he can tell a person's talent at a glance. Xia Xingchen's performance is so poor, I'm afraid Master will be even more disappointed in him. The disciples pointed at Xia Xingchen and whispered. One RUI was so angry that he glared at these disciples. One RUI's grades were among the best, and his father was a member of the King's Star Pirates, and he was an old friend of Roger. He was a favorite of Roger, and others didn't want to offend him. Everyone then dispersed with laughter. Brother. One RUI walked in front of Xia Xingchen, his face flushed. They are too much. I won't take it to heart. Xia Xingchen smiled faintly. I know my own strength. I don't need to look at other people's faces, care about what others say. But brother, how come you can't even pass the fire hell? One RUI puzzled. With your strength, passing the fire hell is not a simple matter. This. Xia Xingchen smiled bitterly and shook his head. Maybe they're right. You are all making rapid progress. I'm still standing still. One RUI wanted to say something. Xia Xingchen waved his hand and left alone. The next day, Xia Xingchen took the initiative to ask Feng Huang to help Master do some odd jobs in exchange for the opportunity to enter the dimension cube again. Feng Huang immediately asked Roger for instructions. Well, the gold and silver star is so big that even with robots, Phoenix, you can't handle it alone. Since Xia Xingchen is willing, agree to his request. However, tell him that the dimension cube is very dangerous. Let him do it according to his ability. Roger thought about it and agreed to this request. Yes, Master. Feng Huang knelt down and told Xia Xingchen. There are many odd jobs on the gold and silver star, mainly cleaning. Especially the exquisite murals on the walls of some palaces, the antiques and calligraphy in the palace, all of which were bought by Roger at a high price. Robots are clumsy and may damage these priceless treasures, so Feng Huang takes care of these things by hand. Xia Xingchen appeared on the roof of the palace with cleaning supplies and cleaned. Seeing this scene, the other disciples immediately began to sneer again. Ha ha ha. Xia Xingchen, you have come to this day. You were punished by the master to clean the house. What are our identities? We are Roger's disciples. Time is more precious than gold, and we have to practice every minute. We actually went to clean the house, and wasted a lot of time. The master really gave up Xia Xingchen. Brother. One RUI looked up, and looked at Xia Xingchen's busy figure on the roof and wall of the palace, his eyes full of confusion. However, one RUI did not say anything, but brought food and water to Xia Xingchen to support his decision. Big brother's mind is not something that a mortal like me can guess. Since he did this, he must have his own reasons. The experience of Demon Star made one RUI admire Xia Xingchen from the bottom of his heart, without any doubt. Facing the rumors of the crowd, Xia Xingchen smiled. Be yourself. Xia Xingchen's mentality was indifferent. Anyway, when he was cleaning, he could concentrate and keep himself in a state of meditation. Therefore, he put aside his practice. After cleaning for a week, Feng Huang praised Xia Xingchen. A week of hard work finally brought a precious opportunity to enter the dimensional cube. Swish. Xia Xingchen drove the Qinglang Mecha and entered the dimensional cube again. This time, Xia Xingchen did not hold back his strength. He quickly passed the 4th layer of the Hell of Fire and the 5th layer of the Dark Space and stood in front of the Starry Sky Beast. The Starry Sky Beast opened its mouth, interlaced its teeth, and bit towards the Qinglang Mecha. Boom. Xia Xingchen did not avoid or give way. The drill bit on the right hand of the Qinglang Mecha condensed and rushed towards the Starry Sky Beast. In the dark space, brilliant light continued to burst out. After a fierce battle, Xia Xingchen finally stood on the huge corpse of the Star Beast. The 6th level was passed. Xia Xingchen did not feel any joy in his heart, because he thought it was a matter of course. More than a month of time has not been in vain. My strength has been improved imperceptibly. Xia Xingchen stared at his hands, full of confidence. Whoosh! The Qinglang Mecha flashed, passed through the black light door, and entered the next level of the elemental cube. Xia Xingchen felt his eyes brighten, and came from the dark space to a vast world. This world covers an extremely large area, the ground is flat, and the boundaries cannot be seen at a glance. On the ground, you can see countless statues, each of which is about 50 meters tall, made of marble, holding various weapons. Click, click, click. One by one, the statues made strange sounds, and the dirt and dust on their bodies fell off, and they began to wake up. Is it a robot? Similar to the guardian of the seabed of the Azure Star. Xia Xingchen's heart trembled. Kill. Kill. All the statues on the ground woke up, their eyes flashing scarlet light, wearing steel armor, holding weapons tightly, and instantly surrounded Xia Xingchen and killed him. Sure. A huge statue holding a long stick jumped up and swept the stick suddenly, with terrifying power. Bang! Xia Xingchen's eyes focused, and a silver spiral spear condensed in the hands of the King Long Mecha, colliding with the long stick. With a bang, the silver spiral spear shattered and turned into countless light points. The long stick of the statue also broke into 2 pieces. Xia Xingchen was shocked. The strength of this statue is similar to that of the starry sky beast. And there are millions of statues in this layer of space. This is too difficult. The difficulty of the dimensional cube is 5 times that of the previous layer. It increases by 5 times. Every time you upgrade a layer, the difficulty increases by an astronomical figure compared to the previous layer. Chapter 11:24 Headache? Liver pain. The 7th floor of the dimensional Rubik's Cube, the Colossus space. On the vast and boundless flatland, Xia Xingchen was driving the King Long Mech and fighting with countless steel colossi. Boom boom boom. There were continuous bright flashes in the sky, a series of mushroom clouds floated up, and one by one the broken steel colossi fell from midair to the ground. However, these steel colossi were almost endless, and they didn't know what death was, and swarmed towards the King Long Mech fighting hard in midair. After 10 minutes, Xia Xingchen was defeated. Too difficult. Xia Xingchen returned to the real world, wiping the cold sweat from his forehead. The difficulty of the dimensional Rubik's Cube increased too quickly, and the difficulty of the next level was 5 times that of the previous level. The gradient of difficulty increase was too steep, and Xia Xingchen couldn't bear it at all. Xia Xingchen's mental power increased by 1 level, and the actual combat power could not be 5 times that of the previous one. Even if Xia Xingchen's mental power level reached level 50 and became an S-level Mecha Master, his strength might not increase by 5 times. The difficulty of the dimensional Rubik's Cube is not gradual, but a huge leap layer by layer. This means that Xia Xingchen's idea of relying on the dimensional Rubik's Cube to improve himself little by little is somewhat unrealistic. Difficult. Really difficult. Xia Xingchen squinted his eyes, unable to understand why Roger, an incapable person, could actually break into the 36th floor of the dimensional Rubik's Cube. This is simply impossible. The dimensional Rubik's Cube that Xia Xingchen challenged entered the 7th floor of the Colossus space. Since he challenged it alone, it was not spread. The other disciples still thought that Xia Xingchen was still wandering in the 4th floor of the flame hell and thought he was a weakling who was not worth worrying about. The disciples were all young geniuses, arrogant, and thought they were strong, so they naturally would not deliberately bully the weak. Therefore, they chose to ignore Xia Xingchen. Ignoring is more uncomfortable than jealousy, sarcasm, and bullying. One RUI was dissatisfied with the behavior of other disciples, but he was helpless. Another month passed. The other disciples also found that the difficulty of the dimensional Rubik's Cube was abnormal and outrageous. They were all stuck at the starry sky beast level and couldn't get through. Even a genius like one RUI, after passing the starry sky beast level and entering the Colossus space, was quickly defeated by the siege of countless colossi. Using the dimensional cube to practice? Not possible. My mental power level, supernatural powers, and mecha technology are not inferior to one RUI. One RUI can enter the Colossus space because his mecha performance is too good. Sword God Mecha. With a casual finger, 10,000 swords return to the origin. It's really amazing. That's right. It must not be the difference in strength, but the difference in mecha performance. But then again, the difference in mecha is the difference in strength. Change mecha. We must change to a mecha with better performance. The other disciples also saw the clues and discussed quietly in private. They are all children of nobles with good family backgrounds, and the mechas they drive are all customized mechas made by senior mecha designers at a high price. However, senior mecha designers also have different levels of skills. What's more, technology is changing with each passing day. A new mecha accessory can improve the performance of the mecha exponentially. Among the disciples, Webster is the most flexible one. Moreover, he and Xia Xingchen are both members of the 7-man council on the Demon Star, so they have some friendship. He had heard that one RUI sword god mecha was designed and manufactured by Xia Xingchen, so he immediately brought 2 bottles of ironstone brew to Xia Xingchen to drink and reminisce. Xia Xingchen was cleaning a statue of Venus with broken arms with cleaning tools in hand. He was wearing a mask on his face and a dirty smock. "Brother, don't be busy. I specially asked someone to bring 2 bottles of ironstone brew. I heard that it is the fine wine from your hometown. We 2 brothers haven't talked for a long time. Let's get drunk today." Webster was very enthusiastic and held Xia Xingchen with a bottle of wine in his hand. Xia Xingchen was very surprised by Webster's sudden change of attitude. A few days ago, Webster was still indifferent to him. Why is he so enthusiastic today? Come, drink. Webster took Xia Xingchen to a remote palace and sat on the ground. From the skylight of the palace, you can look up and see the boundless sea of stars. The bottle of wine was opened, and a spicy aroma of wine wafted out, filling the entire palace. Ironstone brew is not a top-level wine in the Milky Way. At best, it is a well-known strong liquor. However, Xia Xingchen's favorite is ironstone brew because it has the taste of his hometown. No matter where Xia Xingchen goes in the universe, on which planet, he misses his family and hometown the most. It's really the top-level ironstone brew. Xia Xingchen licked his lips. "Brother, I toast you a glass. Thank you for saving my life on the Demon Star." Webster picked up the wine glass and drank the amber wine in it. Although he knew what Webster was thinking, Xia Xingchen couldn't resist the temptation of ironstone brew and drank with Webster. Ironstone brew is spicy, and Webster's face turned red after drinking a glass. He was used to drinking good wine with a long taste and couldn't stand the strong wine brewed by Tishi. After 3 glasses of wine, Webster felt dizzy and felt drunk. Xia Xingchen drank a large glass in one gulp. He was used to drinking such strong liquor and his face remained normal. Webster's original plan was to rely on his good alcohol tolerance to get Xia Xingchen drunk and use the alcohol to talk to him and ask him to help him improve the mecha. He really didn't expect Xia Xingchen to have such a good alcohol tolerance. Burp. Webster couldn't help but burp, and his manners were completely gone. At this time, he remembered that Xia Xingchen was from the military. The senior officers in the army were all big drinkers. He actually came to Xia Xingchen to compete in drinking, and the liquor he competed with was the strong liquor from Xia Xingchen's hometown. Isn't this courting death? That, senior brother, I came to you to ask you to help me modify my mecha. It's better to modify it to something like 1 RUI. Otherwise, I really can't get over the 6th level elemental cube. Webster's head was dizzy, and he no longer had so many tricks in his mind. Under the influence of alcohol, he told the truth. "Ask me to modify the mecha?" Xia Xingchen said calmly. "Then you should know that my fees are very high. We are brothers, and I can give you a 95% discount at most. Of course, it's normal for a master to charge a high fee. Besides, Webster, still have some money." Webster's face flushed, and he patted his chest and said, "You still owe me money." Xia Xingchen smiled slightly. "Oh, money." Webster remembered that he was on the Demon Star, and in order to buy nuclear fuel rods, he was severely cheated by Xia Xingchen, and signed a huge IOU. The amount on the IOU made Webster feel a headache just thinking about it. But at this moment, Webster was drunk and patted his chest to promise, "I will definitely pay back the money I owe, but I don't have the money now. At worst, I can write another IOU in the name of my Weber family. Yeah. It's not that I don't trust you, junior brother." Xia Xingchen smiled and said, "Come on, let's continue drinking." Webster was completely drunk and slept until the evening of the next day. He woke up with a splitting headache. However, when Webster saw the huge amount on the new IOU, his headache stopped immediately. Liver pain. Chapter 1125 Quasi S-Class Mecha Master. Xia Xingchen was very efficient. 10 days later, he handed over the modified new mecha to Webster, who was looking forward to it. Xia Xingchen naturally would not be as attentive to Webster's mecha as he was to 1 RUI sword god mecha. However, Xia Xingchen was definitely not perfunctory. Any master attaches great importance to his own work. If he doesn't make a move, it's fine. Once he makes a move, he will do his best. Before the second monthly exam, Webster finally drove his new mecha. At first, Webster still had some doubts. Although Xia Xingchen was famous, he was young after all, and there was still a big gap between him and the first-line masters of the empire. However, when Webster drove the new mecha, he defeated the Star Beast very smoothly, passed the 6th level dimensional cube, and entered the 7th level Colossus space like 1 RUI. Webster realized that Xia Xingchen's master title was really well deserved. In the second monthly exam, 1 RUI ranked first and Webster ranked second, and both entered the 7th level Colossus space. Zhang Yan was second to last, and his Saturn mecha was still stuck in the 5th layer of dark space. Xia Xingchen was last, and was still in the 4th layer of Hell of Flames. Xia Xingchen was not trying to preserve his strength and pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger. It was because he felt that there was no point in rushing forward to compete for a ranking. The 5th layer of dark space can be passed smoothly just by speed. The 6th layer of Star Beasts, although powerful, mainly tests the attack ability of Mechas. The 7th layer of Colossus space is a comprehensive test, but the difficulty is too high, and you have to give up in a few minutes. Instead of this, it is better to hone yourself in the 4th layer of Hell of Flames. But Xia Xingchen felt that the difficulty of the 4th layer of Hell of Flames was too low for him, and it was not suitable. Webster got the 2nd place in the monthly exam, and he emerged suddenly. He was also very proud and finally raised his head. The Golden and Silver Star is such a small place, with only a few people. Whoever did something could not be hidden from others. The other disciples immediately found out that Webster asked Xia Xingchen to improve the mecha, which made him sore. Therefore, Xia Xingchen, the airman who was forgotten and ignored by everyone in the past, has become a hot commodity again. There is an endless stream of visitors in Xia Xingchen's residence, all of whom bring various gifts and delicacies for him to enjoy. Xia Xingchen accepts everyone and helps other disciples to modify their mechas one by one. Of course, Xia Xingchen also asked them to write a huge IOU. Xia Xingchen is not short of money, and he does not want to take this opportunity to blackmail his fellow apprentices. In other words, Xia Xingchen is not blackmailing money, but favors. It is easy to repay gold and silver, but it is difficult to repay favors. Since ancient times, it has been the most troublesome to repay debts of favor. Roger's apprentices are all from good families and amazing talents. With Roger's guidance, none of them are ordinary people. Sooner or later, they will become dragons, soar into the sky, and affect the pattern of the empire. Xia Xingchen will waste a lot of time to help his fellow apprentices modify their mechas. However, all the fellow apprentices owe him favors. This is a huge fortune. And those IOUs only serve as a reminder. Among the 9 people, only Zhang Yan did not ask Xia Xingchen to modify the mecha. The 3rd monthly exam. After the 8 mechas modified by Xia Xingchen, all passed the 6th level Starry Sky Behemoth, and entered the 7th level. Xia Xingchen and Zhang Yan still took the last 2 places, one hovering on the 4th level and the other being beaten on the 5th level. The strength of the brothers and sisters has been collectively improved, and they have been praised by Roger. Everyone was very happy, and came to thank Xia Xingchen, and held a banquet. Everyone is young, it is normal to be arrogant, and there is no dirty mind between each other. After a big drunk, the previous misunderstandings and jealousy also disappeared. After really understanding Xia Xingchen, the disciples realized that the propaganda of the imperial media was deliberately discrediting Xia Xingchen. He himself is not only not bad, but also a person with great personality charm. Although Xia Xingchen's current strength is not good, and he is always on the 4th level, Xia Xingchen's master status makes him respected everywhere. Even Jinxing is no exception. After the banquet, Xia Xingchen locked himself in the room and thought seriously for 3 days, and finally found the problem. The reason why Roger was able to use the dimensional cube to cross such a steep difficulty increase, break into the 36th floor, and become the strongest human being, must be because his mecha performance was not top-notch. Roger must have encountered the situation of not being strong enough, and being stuck at a certain level. At this time, Roger would find someone to redesign and improve the mecha. wandering in the starry sky, looking for rare mecha materials, designing and manufacturing new mecha accessories. The improvement of the mecha master's mental power is gradual and step by step. However, the improvement of mecha performance is a step-by-step leap, not to mention 5 times. From engineering mecha to military mecha. From military mecha to custom mecha. The innovation of the mecha engine, the improvement of the new system, and the equipment of the painting system. The improvement brought by these mecha accessories is 10 times, or even 100 times. Xia Xingchen is an A-level mecha master, but his combat effectiveness is above that of most S-level mecha masters. It is because the performance of the Qinglang mecha is too powerful, far exceeding the performance of other mecha masters. What if you don't drive the Qinglang mecha? Xia Xingchen analyzed it, and found that even in a one-on-one situation, he is definitely not a match for Webster and others. After finding the crux of the problem, Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up. He finally thought of a practice method that suits him. When other disciples are stuck at a certain level, in addition to improving their hard power, they find ways to improve the mecha, and improve their actual combat effectiveness. And the Qinglang mecha, with Xia Xingchen's current ability, there is no room for improvement. The Qinglang mecha is too perfect. In this case, it is better to do the opposite, improve the Qinglang mecha downward, and reduce its performance, to increase the difficulty of the 4th level of the dimensional cube. Weight training. In order to improve themselves, and suppress the potential in the flesh, the warriors of ancient Earth often trained with weights. Xia Xingchen's current practice is the same. Xia Xingchen did what he said, and immediately reduced the energy output power of the Thunder Heart by 30%. The defense of the Devouring Star armor was also lowered, the divine weapon system was disabled, and the effectiveness of the enhanced coating was also reduced by 30%. Driving the Qinglang mecha with greatly reduced performance, Xia Xingchen entered the dimensional cube again. The 4th level of the flame hell. Xia Xingchen obviously felt that the battle was very strenuous. However, he was extremely excited. This shows that the weight training method is effective. After another month, Xia Xingchen was shocked to find that without knowing it, his mental power level finally rose to level 49. Became a quasi S-class mecha master. Only one step away from an S-class mecha master. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.